All right, I need my little heater. It's cold in here. That should do the trick.
You'd think catching up on sleep over the weekend would make me a lot more able to wake up this morning.
Nope.
Not in the slightest. That was probably the hardest I've had to wake up for, well, since last Monday, I guess, or Tuesday for me. And Emma Thurns at 6:11.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'll be surprised if I'm still awake at the end of the show. Like, that's how tired I am this morning. 6:06 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Good morning, everybody. Brian here with you, Jake producing. We call it Mornings with Brian Haldane. We are off and running on this Monday morning, getting your week started off. Get your week kicking in the door of the week as we start things off. Busy show lined up for you today. We're all over the place today. First of all, Monday morning, 6:35, Richard Condon stops by. Why? I don't know, but it's proven to work so far. Condon's going to, I don't know how to tease it because I don't know what the topics are. But we got Richard in here in half an hour. Like every Monday, he comes down from Eagle 98.1, which is just down the hall from right here, and hits me with a few topics. I do my best to adapt, and then he goes right back to the rock music. In our 7 o'clock hour, February is Heart Month. We're going to be talking about that with the folks from Our Lady of the Lake, cardiology and whatnot. Throughout the month, that starts today, 7:15. Medical Mondays presented by Our Lady of the Lake. Follow that up with Stephen Wagaspak, president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. No doubt we will talk about the jobs report that came out Friday. Very positive jobs report, not just in terms of rehires due to the pandemic. And I know we've seen an unemployment drop, and everybody touts that it's a huge success, but a lot of it was pandemic hires getting rehired. Well, this jobs report included some new jobs as well. Want to talk about that. Want to talk about where gas prices are headed because the price of oil is on its way up. And a number of other things. That's all at 7:35. In the 8 o'clock hour, we visit with State Senator Sharon Hewitt. Senator Hewitt is from the St. Tammany Parish area and heads up Senate and Governmental Affairs Committee. Going to talk about the redistricting session. This is something we are going to try to do once a day at least. 20 days to get it done. Over to the state capitol. We're going to visit with a different legislator every day as the session wears on. State Senator Hewitt joins us at 8:15. Going to wrap up the show today, or wrap up the guest list today, with an author of a historical fiction book called The Light on Luna Street. Her name is Addison Armstrong. I can't wait to have this conversation. I want to talk a little bit about her book, how you can get it, what it's about, and everything. But more importantly, where we're at right now when it comes to, I should say, where we were at last week when it came to Whoopi Goldberg sounding off on a book that was being nixed from a Tennessee reading list. As an author of historical fiction, curious to see what Ms. Armstrong has to say about this. Now, technically, if you want to be technically technical, sure, that's a phrase. The book that was being nixed from the reading list was not fiction. It was historical. It was nonfiction, but it was written in graphic novel form. So we're going to talk about that. A little bit about cancel culture overall, but more importantly, how are the storytellers supposed to tell a story with the expectation that generations from now it's going to be read the same way or not? Think about it. Harper Lee could not write To Kill a Mockingbird thinking about cancel culture. This book, Mouse, that was nixed back in up in Tennessee, the one that caused all the controversy, there's no way to write about the Holocaust without being brutal about it, which included the nudity that the people who wanted to cut it off the list. It included the nudity that got the first questions asked, but it also includes something that you just can't talk about in a safe manner. The level of brutality of the Holocaust needs to be told with the level of brutality of the Holocaust. So, anyway, we'll talk with Addison at 8:40 this morning. Of course, we'll have top stories of trending. Of course, we'll have the outside in. Of course, Jake will have this day in history. We're going to take a quick break in a minute. Come back, talk a little LSU basketball. They stunk on the road on Saturday. It was not a pretty game. Defensively, could not get a whole lot done. Vanderbilt looked better than Vanderbilt is. Scottie Pippen Jr. is really good, but he wasn't the whole show, or he wasn't even part of the show. Also, LSU women are back at it tonight as well, right here on Talk 107.3 FM. We'll get you there and the rest of your morning drive and everything else that's coming your way throughout the morning. Before we take the break, though, I want to remind you about the folks over at Mathern's Market for a couple of reasons. Number one, I ended up stopping by Mathern's for my lunch on Friday. They had boudin balls on the hot bar. So I already knew I was going to blow my diet out of the water because I was waiting to get a wedding king cake. Wedding cake king cake? More on that in a second. Well, when I went in, I was like, let me check the hot bar, see what they got going on. Once I saw the boudin balls, I'm like, oh, it's on. A couple of boudin balls, meat pie. Balanced it out with some vegetables that I wouldn't snagged off the salad bar just so I wouldn't feel so guilty. So good, though. Boudin balls are like, they're a tough spot. Because do you want them small and bite size, which is what they have over at Mathern's? Or do you want that big honk of boudin ball? Look like a grandma's meatball. I like the bite size. Just pop them and go. And, of course, you got to have the right boudin inside. Anyway, they get you taken care of over at Mathern's. I was telling you about the wedding cake king cake. Haggai and I were talking about it on Friday. I was telling you how much I was looking forward to it. Oh, did it deliver. Y'all, the Haldane house is not a non-traditional king cake house. We like the traditional king cake in the Haldane house. This thing is a game changer. Wedding cake king cake. Now, it's not all wedding cake the whole way through. It's still a king cake, but it's stuffed with the buttercream icing that you get on a wedding cake. The icing on top, the white icing on top is phenomenal as well, and then drizzled with almond slices all over the top of it. Oh, man, it was so good. There's still a little bit left at the house, but I'm going to have to dial it back in if I want to have a chance to hit my way in at all this week. Look, go get yourself one. They're very limited supply. We talked about it on Friday. By the time I got there, they were sold out and baking more. This thing's a winner. This thing's a game changer. It's the wedding cake king cake, and you can get it at either location of Mathern's. I went to the one on Nicholson in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center right across the street from Tiger Stadium, so I suggest that's where you go as well. You can also find Mathern's downtown on 3rd Street. Mathern's, oh, by the way, they're a full-service supermarket as well. All right, let's see what's happening. Eric's the only one sounding off so far. Says LSU messed up my 16-bet parlay. You hit 15 out of 16 bets in a parlay. Don't bet on LSU basketball. It's just way too erratic. Any team whose entire future can turn on one player being hurt or not, but also I wouldn't take LSU at Vanderbilt at all. We talked about it on Friday. Will Wade does not do well there. I believe you. I'm not doubting you. I can't bet on LSU basketball at all. Pelicans too. If I'm emotionally involved, I can't do it. I did all right over the weekend. I only netted like $30. Bear in mind, I'm not betting more than $5 on anything. I only netted $30 over the weekend. It was a rough Saturday and a good Sunday. I'm working on an angle right now within pro basketball, within the NBA, on in-game over-unders. I think I've got the math solved. I've got the right. I've got the right equation. I just don't know how many variables I'm missing. I know that doesn't sound right. If you don't know all the variables, you don't have the right equation. But I'm heading into the weekend, I was hitting it, like over the course of the first week, I was hitting it over 80%. That dropped a little bit on Saturday. I want to get my sample size up before I start putting real money on it. In-game over-unders. That's where I'm eating. Oh man. Did you watch LSU men on Saturday night? Struggles continue. Fighting Tigers lost to Vanderbilt 75-66. Commodores led by as many as 21. Now LSU would cut that lead way down for sure. 13 3-pointers for Vandy. LSU 3. It's kind of the difference in the ball game. Coach Will Wade says they didn't follow their game plan on defense. That led to open shots for Vanderbilt.
We had poor closeouts. We overhelped. We helped when we didn't need to. And 10 Stutes shooting 41% coming into the game. We just leave them wide open. Chapman's a known three-point shooter, 35% career three-point shooter. Just leave them wide open. So you're not beating any teams doing that.
No, you're not. But why are you doing that, though? Now, to be fair, if you're going in against Vanderbilt, you want to put a lot of focus on Scottie Pippen Jr. He's their big stud, and this Chapman guy was not averaging in double figures. And LSU has a knack for making players who don't average big time to just show up big time on single game samples. Tari Eason, by the way, for LSU, led the way with 16. Gaines had 14. Darius Days had a double-double. 10 points, 11 boards. Wade's team has now lost 3 straight for the second time this season.
We need better play from a lot of folks. What we're doing is not good enough. It's not good enough on a lot of fronts, and so we need a lot of guys to step up and certainly play better as we kind of work our way through this slump.
Yeah, but whose job is that? See, this is one where I don't want to speak out of turn because I'm not one of the sports guys. But if this were Les Miles, if this were Paul Maneri, if this were Ed Ogeron, all fingers would be pointed at the coach. We're not going to see that. We're going to be talking about injuries, whereas if anybody else is at the helm, it's next man up. And just the nature of the schedule and everything else, and the ship will be righted. The Tigers have lost 6 of their last 7. By the way, play tomorrow night at Texas A&M, so you go road game to road game. Coach Wade was asked about the confidence of his team after the loss in Nashville.
I mean, well, damn, it's hard to be confident when you've lost, 6 out of 7? Yeah. So we got to inject a little confidence in our guys, and we've got to get back to certainly playing better than we are now.
Yeah, so I'm expecting one more loss before they come home and right the ship. Meanwhile, Kim Mulkey's Tigers are still on a tear. They're going to be at Ole Miss tonight. Tip-off is for 6 p.m. Pre-game starts at 5:30 right here on Talk 107.3 FM. So Mulkey's Tigers, the women's basketball team, will be at Ole Miss tonight. You'll hear it here on Talk 107.3. All right, quick break. Fox Business Report. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about Hurricane Ida. We've got some numbers in. Get started on I was running late for everything this morning. I have not even had my morning breakfast. I had my Red Bull, but I didn't have this. I had to swap the order. Normally I have this as I'm printing and stapling and collating and everything. Got to coordinate. But I was running late this morning, so got to slam down my Go Slim shake while I'm on the air. Bees. Wooded bees. Good morning, Christy. Welcome in, sweetheart. Glad to see you. How was the workout, boo? Byron says, I'm guessing Wade spends all his time on a first date telling her all his flaws. I suppose. It just gets frustrating. He's held to a different standard than literally everybody else. Well, I shouldn't say literally everybody else. Sean Payton was in the Will Wade class. And I firmly believe that if you're a prick to the media, they respect you more. If you're nice to the media, they look like a shark with blood in the water. They look for an opening to pounce on you. I mean, if you're named a head coach in Louisiana, first press conference, throw an elbow. Throw an elbow, bloody a nose, and people will love you forever. The more dickish you are, like the media is Tina Turner and the Will Wade is Ike, like the worse you can be, the better you're going to be treated by the media. That's delicious. 15 grams of protein right there, y'all. 15 grams of protein. I was down another pound this week. Love when I could step on the scale down a full pound because I'm like right at 200. So the weight loss, I'm seeing diminishing returns as I lose more and more. Okay, now I just have a bunch of liquid in my stomach. Okay. I might knock that out at 20 at 30 just to give Condon more room to run. All my pencils are gone. I used to have like 3 pencils over here. They're all gone. Ooh, do you use it? Do you want a pen in return? Oh, okay. Most people do. I don't know why I like pencils so much. I like erasing. So I did my Thurns.
I mean, the papers that I write on, they're pretty much done by the end of the day. Then I use a new paper.
Yeah.
So I don't really need to worry about erasing and stuff.
Poo-poo. .624, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. About 10 minutes from now, Richard Condon is going to step in. I'm sure we'll have no shortage of topics. We never have a shortage of topics. I'm wondering if Alvin Kamara will be on the table for this one. Alvin Kamara, New Orleans Saint Alvin Kamara, arrested in Las Vegas, posted up a $5,000 bond, battery charges after playing in the Pro Bowl. That might be on the table. Don't know what else could be in store. But that's coming up about 10 minutes from right now. Hey, also today, I'm super looking forward to Stephen Wagasback today. Birthday boy Stephen Wagasback. Well, technically yesterday was his birthday. Going to join me. He's the president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Friday brought us the January jobs report, and it actually looked good. I mean, a lot of the recent job reports have been a mixed bag of, yes, look at all the hires, but are they hires or are they pandemic-based rehires? A lot of the recent job reports have been a matter of, yes, unemployment is down, but does that mean people are reentering the workforce or bailing on the workforce altogether? This particular jobs report is good across the board. New jobs, not just pandemic rehires. A small return to the workforce. Not just people throwing in the towel and just saying, you know what, unemployment, whatever. I'm getting back in it. Is this the start of a trend? So we'll talk with Stephen Wagas back at 7:35. Also, 8:15, State Senator Sharon Hewitt's going to join us to talk about the redistricting session, which enters its second week. They've only got 20 days to get everything done when it comes to redrawing all the Louisiana maps from the U.S. Congress to the State Senate to the State House to the judicial districts to the Bessie Board to the Public Service Commission. You name it, they're breaking it down over the next 20 days. We'll talk with Senator Hewitt at 8:15. Right now, though, grabbing this from the Advocate, Hurricane Ida is a top 10 storm. Last year's Hurricane Ida made number 5 in the top 10 for most expensive hurricanes in U.S. history. This, according to a new report from the National Centers for Environmental Information. The Advocate says, causing damage estimated so far at $75 billion, Ida, which struck Louisiana on August 29th, ranks just below Hurricane Sandy of 2012 and just above Hurricane Irma of 2017. So they gave us the top 10. Figured we run through them just to see how much we actually remember about our top 10 storms. Number 10 on the list, Hurricane Wilma from 2005. Hard to remember anything from 2005 that wasn't Katrina or Rita, right? Wilma hit later on, and it didn't hit us. Made landfall as a Category 3 hurricane on October 23rd of 2005 near Cape Romano, Florida. Raked the Florida Peninsula in less than 5 hours and headed out to sea. $27.7 billion in damage in that little bit of time, though. Coming in at number 9 on the list, Ivan in 2004, $30.8 billion worth of damage. Made landfall as a Category 3 just west of Gulf Shores, Alabama on September 16th, 2014. Weakened as it moved inland, producing more than 100 tornadoes and heavy rain across much of the southeastern U.S. before merging with a frontal system over the Delmarva Peninsula on September 18th. Ike in 2008 caused $39.6 billion worth of damage. Ike came ashore at the north end of the Galveston Island on September 13th, 2008 as a Category 2 hurricane. It weakened as it moved inland. It did cause, like I said, $39.6 billion worth of damage as it made its way through. Andrew, back in 1992, is your number 7 at $54.3 billion. Irma at number 6 with $56.5 billion. Andrew was a good while ago, making landfall at Homestead as a Category 5 hurricane. It moved west in the Gulf of Mexico, curved north, came ashore in Louisiana as a Category 3 near Morgan City. Andrew was a beast of a storm. We had Irma at 6. Ida, like we said, was $75 billion. That's still fresh in our minds. What was up next? Sandy from 2012 was at $80 billion, number 4 overall. Maria in 2017, $101.7 billion. Number 2 on the list, Harvey, also 2017, at $141.3 billion. And number 1 on the list, the one we're never, ever going to forget here in Louisiana, Katrina, 2005, $182 billion worth of damage. So there's your top 10. Okay, we have a break for news here in just a second. Before we take that break for news, want to remind you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center. They've got 2 locations, Plank Road in Zachary and Perkins just east of Bluebonnet. They've got certifications. More than a dozen major manufacturers say take your car to Complete Collision Center to have it serviced after an accident. They've got the iCar Gold Class certification. Want to learn more about that? Visit CompleteCollision.com, CompleteCollision.com. At Complete Collision, it's about getting you and your family back on the road safely. 768-9898 is the phone number, 768-9898. But the website, CompleteCollision.com, don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. All right, quick break for news. When we come back, Condon stepping in. That's coming up next. Colton says Kamara's situation seems odd. I'm not saying he did or didn't do it. I'm just waiting till all the details are out to pass judgment. Not that it's even my place. So Kamara's situation is one that I think is going to be odd. As the Pro Bowl follows I shouldn't say follows the Super Bowl because it comes before the Super Bowl, but follows or goes where the Super Bowl goes, you're going to have more and more headline chasers pick fights. Like, I'm speculating. When the Pro Bowl was in Hawaii, and folks would just, the Pro Bowlers would just go to Hawaii as a vacation, it was a different vibe. Galen says the unemployment statistic is the most meaningless stat in the U.S. Conversely, the labor participation rate is what we should look at. I say that all the time, man. You're 100% right. 100% right. I got to sharpen my pencil. Yo, what's happening? How was Mobile? Morning, Renee. Morning, Eric. Morning, Colton. Morning, Galen. Morning, Byron. Morning, everyone else who's on board right now. And that number keeps varying. If you're not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe. And if you're not commenting, why aren't you commenting? Get in the conversation. Let's have some fun. Let's talk. No big deal. No big whoop. By the way, anyone who has not yet gotten the wedding cake, king cake over at Mathern's needs to go. Like, just go. It's, what was it, $22.99, I think, which king cakes have gotten up there recently. That's, believe it or not, very, very reasonable, very competitive when looking at the rest of the king cake world. Worth every dime. So good. Oh, excuse me. Mm.
I hope this Condon segment wakes me up. I hope it constantly brings the energy.
Yeah.
Because I am.
What's going on, yo?
There he is. BH, what's up, dude?
We all need a wake-up call this morning. This is Slow Monday. Everybody needs a wake-up call. Me, Jake, all of Baton Rouge.
You know, it's weird. A lot of times, Mondays and news is always tough, man. It always is.
You get the whole
Now,
weekend to
especially
pick
now
through.
because you have, lightly staffed news departments of radio, TV stations and stuff.
Yeah.
And unless something like big happens, it's the same old regurgitated stuff from the weekend.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot. How's the fam?
Fam's good, man. Christy's on the mend. Did I tell you? Did you see any of well, I don't even know if you're on Facebook or not.
No.
All right, check this shit. Oh wait, no, that's Abby. That's basketball. This is hang on. This is my 9-year-old. Just deadly from the free throw line. But this is Carrie.
Good, she's squatting.
Squatting there. Crush it.
That's
Got
awesome.
the squat, got the deadlift.
Is that part of team workout in some capacity or what?
She's on the powerlifting team.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So she went from getting cut from 2 sports to, where's my Facebook at? To possibly lettering as a freshman. I don't know how that works anymore. Watch this. Love this shit. Where'd it go? Took 3rd.
Oh, that's awesome. Where was that at?
Sanama. In that goofy looking dome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's actually a pretty cool place. .637 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Are you ready to kick your week in the junk? Because that's what we do here on Monday mornings. We get you started the right way. We welcome in Richard Condon from Condon Uncensored on Eagle 98.1.
You know it was 12 years ago today?
I don't know it was
12
wait,
years
wait,
ago
wait,
today.
let me do the
Tracy
math.
Porter.
Yep.
3 minutes
Yeah,
left to
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Took it to the house.
Yeah.
I would rank that.
Thank you,
where
Port
would you
Allen.
rank that all time on your individual playlist.
Oh, that feeling in the moment. Because there was no one moment in the Borough National Championship game in the 2019.
Right.
There was no
One
one
individual
that
play,
one
one
moment.
individual
That
moment.
one moment. Second all time behind Steve Gleason's block punt.
See,
And I know Porter meant more because it was a Super Bowl
but I
ring.
mean in all of sports, all your teams. That would be number 2. I don't think anything would ever replace Garrett Hartley's kick. In the dome, holding hands with strangers. Never thinking since 67 you'd ever live long enough. And you know how many Saints fans had come and gone since that moment. That would be number 1. That would be number 2.
You and I had beers before that game.
We sure did.
At the Rotolos across the street. Yeah.
That would, and I think Warren Morris's home run would be 3rd. If you had to encompass
man.
You had to encompass all. Because
Yeah.
when he had struck out,
Yeah.
and I'll never forget, I was so ticked off, I went in the backyard, and all of a sudden the family's going nuts. And my son ran out and said that Warren just hit a home run.
Yeah, that would be
All
up
right,
there.
Big, look, here's something I want to go off
Darius Bird, Demetrius Bird.
Yeah,
Flinda Bird
against Alvin?
Flinda Bird, yeah.
In the corner against
Yeah, just when you could grasp it all in one moment. Like a compilation of a perfect game doesn't do
Right.
it, but you're right, the one moment does.
All right, B, here's something I want to go off on.
What's up?
I am sick and tired. It started in the Summer Olympics with Armando Duplantis, okay? Started with him.
Oh, no.
Mother born in Sweden. His daddy here. Was
Yeah.
an LSU athlete.
Yeah.
All right, then we get this American freestyle skier. She's the best freestyle skier in the world. Her name
for
is
her.
Eileen Gu. She decided that she was going to go ski for China.
Yeah.
And then the other girl yesterday, California-born skater, Zhu Yai, she finished dead last in the women's shot program. So not only did she turn her back on America, now the Chinese don't want nothing to do with her either. 'Cause
Really?
She finished dead last.
Okay.
So my point is, it really pisses me off when somebody is born and raised in this country, they get support all of their lives from friends, neighbors, classmates. They go through all the skill training and get everything they need to become better athletes. And then all of a sudden, when it comes down to representing a country, they decide to go back to China to represent a country where their mama was born.
Right.
It ticks me off, just like Armando. Born here, raised in Lafayette. His daddy was a pole vaulter at LSU.
Yeah.
And just because his mama was born in Sweden, and he should have moved to Sweden in pre-K, got trained over in Sweden, lived in Sweden, and then he can represent his mama's country in Sweden. It really ticks me off when athletes turn their back. And it's the same thing with National Signing Day. Now, I know everybody's going to say, well, what about the
you and I
athletes that
disagree on
come
that
here?
one.
What about the athletes that come here? But let
Yeah.
me tell you what's got to change on National Signing Day. It really aggravates me, and I blame it on the adults in these kids' lives. You don't disrespect the fan base. You don't disrespect the
no, I do
university.
agree on this.
And you don't disrespect
Yes.
alums.
Yes.
Okay, because it's totally damn disrespectful for these damn adults in these kids' lives to allow these kids to throw a university's cap aside and wear different T-shirts. That's disrespectful. You got men on those involved with those programs, right? Who took time away from their own families. I get it. It's their job to recruit that kid. Whatever happened to the day when a kid just got up to the podium, just announced where he was going to school? This whole dog and pony show, and I won't mention the kid's name, but a kid on Friday had a bunch of caps that he tossed, and none of the schools even recruited him. Right. They didn't even recruit him. He had an LSU cap. The LSU didn't even recruit him. The kid wound up going to Grambling. But this whole nickel and dime stuff, this whole nickel and dime stuff, when these adults in these people's lives, and they think it's funny. They laugh at a 17 or 18-year-old throwing the university's cap aside and changing shirts and tossing stuff.
Okay, here's everybody has a line in the sand that they draw as to what they enjoy and what they tolerate and where you can't cross. For me, rep your high school, rep the college you're going to. Outside of that, leave everybody else out of it. Everything else is a matter of disrespect. It's a matter of belittling someone else to make you feel better. It's the same as that. You might as well have Mean Gene Okerlund handed you the microphone because it's pro wrestling at that point. It's ginned up drama for the sake of ginned up drama.
Hey, did you ever thought you'd live long enough to see Milli Vanilli type football in a Pro Bowl? They were like tackle sinking. You remember
I don't
Milli
watch Pro
Vanilli
Bowl anymore. I watch the
Milli
skills.
Vanilli, right?
Yeah.
You got caught lip syncing in '89.
Baby.
Yeah, the whole bit. This thing that happened yesterday, the only reason why I even watched a little bit of it, because there was nothing else on.
Okay.
LSU women play tonight against Ole Miss. So knowing the LSU women play on Sundays, well, there was nothing on. I'm not in the NBA. I'm not into the Winter Olympics at all. And so I've got to watch a little Pro Bowl. It was the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen. It was worse. They should just do flag football. I'm telling you, they would just do this and they would call it down.
They should.
And they got winners making $80,000 for that nonsense.
Right.
I mean, look, if you don't want to sack the quarterback, fine. All right, kickoff returns. You don't want to, you just go through the motions here.
Yeah.
But when you start not tackling in a Pro Bowl, you just need to eliminate the event. You got to get rid of it. It's an absolute joke. I remember going to one Pro Bowl. The city of New Orleans hosted one in 1976. Matter of fact, Ray Guy hit the gondola when he punted. Billy White Shoes Johnson was the MVP of that game.
I'm totally with you. Get rid of the Pro Bowl. The same reason you get rid of the NBA All-Star game. There is no defense.
You know who my hero is today?
Who?
11-year-old girl. Her name is Audrey Soap. Soape. Okay.
Right.
She lost her dad and her grandfather in a period of weeks a year ago. Had a father-daughter dance over the weekend. Okay. Well, her favorite NFL player, and she's in Texas. I don't know the tie-in, but her favorite NFL player is Eagle safety Anthony Harris. So her mom reached out.
Okay.
He played in Virginia. So her mom reached out, hey, my daughter loves you, the whole bit. You know what Anthony Harris did? What? Not only did he pay for her dress, her shoes, her makeup, her hair, he surprised her and took her to the father-daughter dance.
Oh, wow.
That's the kind of guy that needs more attention than athletes out there with domestic abuse on women, not appreciating the opportunity they have in life and getting into trouble. But that's one guy that deserves a big prop on her back, man.
Very much
let me tell you something. How do you work it can a general be down to like degraded and ranked to like a corporal? I'm thinking maybe Will Wade needs to go to corporal. Do you think corporal or sergeant?
Hey, I think
corporal or
you
sergeant?
and I are the only two. You and I are the only two beating this bandwagon here.
Don't get it.
If it's Les Miles, if it's Paul Maneri, if it's God forbid Ed Ogeron, like if it's anybody else, everybody's pointing fingers at the coach.
But right now,
with
one time in Dale's whole tenure, one time he lost 6 out of 7 once.
Really?
Yeah. I think we'll need to get Dale over there to do some motivational speaking.
I'm down.
I mean, it's unbelievable, man.
I'm down.
And, hey, B, one more thing. Baton Rouge was incorporated in 1817, so that's 205 years ago.
Okay.
We got a bunch of idiots every day. In every city, we got idiots, right? Well, I got my weekend idiot all time in Baton Rouge.
All time?
Yep.
That's pretty strong.
Ron Wynn trying to break into BRPD. He's the biggest weekend
I've got him coming up in top stories and trending.
Am I right?
Okay, dude tries to break in and burglarize BRPD. And then did you see his mugshot?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, look in the camera and say, grrr! Tough guy.
Some family members doing tattoos on the side.
He's so good.
Unbelievable, big. Always a pleasure, brother.
That's so brazen. He is Richard Condon. You can check him out on Condon Uncensored on Eagle 98.1 right down the hall. Just, actually right after this. So he'll be right back at it. Love you, Rich. Appreciate it. Yep. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back from that break, it is time to talk a little bit about the pandemic and mental health. It's been a topic of concern, but there have been trade-offs. From the beginning of COVID till now, there have been trade-offs. Our physical safety at the detriment of our mental health. We're starting to learn a lot more about it, and I'm sure we're going to learn a lot more as things wear on. Hey, before we get you to the break, though, I almost forgot. We're going to pick up your car payments for a year. Not us, but the folks over at Citizens Bank and Trust. I'm not picking up anybody's car payments. Citizens Bank and Trust and Talk 107.3 FM want to make 2022 as easy on you as possible, and that's by knocking out your car payment, knocking it all the way down to zero. We've got car payments for a year, or 6 months of free car washes at Benny's Car Wash, depending on which one you win. Visit talk1073.com, talk1073.com. Click on the free car payments for a year sweepstakes and register. Courtesy of Citizens of Bank and Trust and Talk 1073. Yay! We went too fast. That's never the case. It amazes me, the stuff about Will Wade. And the thing is, the part of it that I don't like is the fact that I like him so much. Like, I want to have his back here, but I also want to make sure there's not a double standard. Every other coach that comes through is like, hey, what's the problem with the coach? But with Will Wade, it's like, hey, he's got injury issues. Okay. LSU football went through 4 quarterbacks. Like, 4 quarterbacks in 2020, 3 in 2021. Next man up. Next man up. But okay, Byron apparently picked up on my coffee talk thing. No big whoop. Talk amongst yourselves. Galen says, let's talk congressional districts this AM. Louisiana will get another minority district. It's only a matter of which map will be used. A minority congressional district? Oh, I disagree. What's your rationale behind it? What's your reasoning behind it? How do they make that happen? That moment, second for sports because the Cubs in 16 when Zobrist untied it after the night. Do what? Okay. Yep. Warren Morris has to be number 3. Warren Morris was special. I'll never forget it. Neither will I. I was watching the game with one of my best friends who loved to troll me because of my love for LSU. He ended up going to UL Monroe, playing football over there. But hang on. Go ahead, put me on. We're talking about the pandemic and mental health right after Your Money Now. All right. He used to love to troll me because I was so passionate about LSU, and he was completely removed. He played linebacker for UL Monroe, and we're sitting there just to give you an idea of how much he would troll me. He after he was done at UL Monroe, or it was just Northwestern State at the time, I guess still. He came to an LSU game, and I was like ripping on him the whole day long. I'm like, "You're going to see what a real football stadium looks like." Blah blah blah. You know, this isn't like you don't put your lazy boy in the back of your truck and call that tailgating, which they do or they did up in Monroe at the time. Anyway, it was LSU versus Tulane. What year was it? I don't remember what year it was, but LSU had like a 21-point lead going into half. And I was a little bit lit, as I tended to be at LSU games. And he kept, like, baiting me, like, it's over with. LSU's going to shut it down. Eventually, I ended up betting him $50 that LSU would double their lead in the second half. I almost won. I did not win. Paid off my bet that night. Did not win, though. Clinton says there needs to be a conversation about a bench coach for floor management and X's and O's. WW's weak spots. Yeah, absolutely. There needs to be any sort of conversation other than, well, injuries. Well, why can't these guys get it together? Where if that happens in football, it's, what are you going to do, blame 18-year-olds? And I hesitate to make that argument because I don't want to argue in favor of any of the coaches that have had to be subject to that. It's just that's been the consensus so far, is if it happened to Les Miles, it was Les Miles. If it happened under Les Miles' watch, it was Les Miles' fault. If it happened on Ed Ogeron's watch, it was Ed Ogeron's fault. It happened on Maneri's watch, it was Maneri's fault. .652, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Got the CBS World News Roundup coming your way in about 7.5 minutes. Thanks again to Richard Condon for stopping by. Wanting to demote Will Wade from general. I don't know that you can. At what point does he become Corporal Wade? It's a tough topic to talk about because we all want the best for the team. We all like Will Wade. But there does seem to be a different standard for it happens in any other sport, you blame the coach. It's happening on the court for LSU. They lose 6 or 7, and everybody's just shrugging their shoulders. Anyway, coming up in our next hour, we're going to talk about Heart Month. It is Heart Month. We're going to talk about Heart Month with Our Lady of the Lake. They'll be on the hotline at 7:15. They bring you Medical Monday every Monday. Also going to talk about the recent jobs report with Stephen Wagaspack from the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. We got that and a whole lot more to cover next hour. Right now, though, let's dive in a little bit. You heard the story a few minutes ago from the Louisiana Radio Network, our news partners letting us know. We're almost 2 years into the pandemic. Behavioral health experts warn of long-term mental health impacts that COVID has made on society. They're going to play back the same audio they had a little while ago. Patrick Bordnick, Dean of Tulane University's School of Social Work, says the mental consequences of the pandemic are not going to go away overnight.
What we're not taking into consideration is the long-term impact of mental health, that we are going to be seeing increased rates of anxiety, depression, substance misuse, and abuse for years to come.
But the hard part is going to be pinning that on one thing. I mean, yes, the pandemic has ruled over everything when it comes to pointing the blame. And we'll get into more of that in just a minute. But over the course of a lifetime, to narrow down mental health issues to one traumatic event, especially one that's as prolonged as this one, like once the pandemic is pretty much over with and we take a look at whatever's next, like we're going to hear headlines in the CBS World News Roundup about how we're moments away from seeing Russia invade Ukraine. And then what's the response to that going to be? And the amount of movement of troops in Europe right now is to a level that we haven't seen since World War II. Okay, so let's go back to how do you blame the pandemic versus that for something that's going to cause trauma long term? Back to the Tulane research, the mental health challenges. According to the Tulane research, those mental health challenges have risen 33% since the pandemic. More than a quarter of those surveyed reported prior mental health issues. Bordnick says they know from previous traumas there's a high rate of substance abuse relapse under stressful events as well.
We also know with anxiety and depression, the same thing. People that are being treated for anxiety and depression have increased risk for it reoccurring or becoming more severe.
But how much more severe? This is something that we've taken a look at from a number of different individual angles, but not necessarily the mental health angle. Ultimately, what we're worried about here, or what we should be worried about here, is people that would hurt themselves or others, right? The rest of it, we'll just learn to deal with, as we have throughout human history. But when it comes to addiction, we know those numbers are through the roof simply because of the number of opioid-related deaths. They broke a record in 2020 and then broke that record in 2021. Now, when it comes to the more slippery slope of abusing perfectly legal substances like alcohol, I mean, at least with opioids, it started with a prescription before moving somewhere else, or at least we assume it started with a prescription before moving onto the street. But something like alcohol, I don't need a prescription. I can run into Mathern's Market and grab some booze right now. Or at the top of the hour break, I guess I should wait. Or I could just look over my left shoulder and raid the Bite and Booze pantry of Jay Ducote over here, right? When it comes to abusing perfectly legal substances like alcohol, we know, thanks to a study out of Columbia University, alcohol sales actually increased during the lockdowns. Now, you're talking about a time where there were no bars. You're talking about a time where there were no restaurants. You only had to-go orders, and sales still went up. Like, bars did not have to order new booze because booze was not being served in the bars because the bars were closed down. And for a lot of folks, this wasn't just social drinking because, well, quite honestly, how could you be social when you're not allowed to gather? For a lot of folks, this was Taiwan on night after night drinking. But regardless, sales were up for March of 2020. Taking a look at alcohol sales, June of 2021 was middle of the road when looking at the pandemic timeline. Like June of 2021, the middle of last year, when everything kind of, we were getting used to the ebbs and flows of the whole thing. Restaurants were already back open. Bars were on again, off again. So substance abuse, legal or otherwise, was on a serious uptick. We also know domestic violence spiked and stayed spiked. I guess plateaued would be the right word there. But we've seen the numbers there in our own backyard. From overall incidents and calls to deaths, they were up on both counts. And then there's suicide, which should be, when talking about mental health, the ultimate concern, right? Domestic abuse or suicide, those who would harm themselves or others. The Pan American Health Organization cited numerous studies showing that risk factors for suicide were amplified due to the pandemic. So let's bring this back to before the pandemic. Bordnick says there was already a shortage of mental health providers. That shortage has only become exacerbated. Bordnick hopes their research highlights the dire need for more assistance, reminds those suffering to be kind to, really just be kind to yourself.
I tell people, if you get out of bed and take on the day, give yourself a compliment, because that's difficult when we've had 2 years of nonstop anxiety for all of us.
I mean, it might feel, for those of us who are okay, it might feel like that's setting the bar a little low. But we do need to ask, like, how many people is that the bar that has to be cleared? I think it was last September for Suicide Prevention Day. We talked with Pat Mashburn. Yeah, Jack Mashburn's uncle. He's also the author of Just Breathe, which walks you through the immediate aftermath of suicide from the perspective of a guy that 911 calls when people call them. Like, you call 911, report a suicide, they're calling Pat. He's a grief counselor. He'd be on the scene for that. Anyway, Pat was on last September breaking down the factors that contribute to suicide risk. Job loss, economic loss, those were big things. Trauma, abuse, yes, mental health disorders, barriers to accessing health care. All these things have been exacerbated by the pandemic. And at what cost? Or to what reward, I should say. We'll break it down later. Here comes CBS World News Roundup. Damn it, I did not think that take was going to go that long. I just ran out of time. That segment could have been twice as long. No, like, look, this big paragraph in the middle of the page, skip that one. And look, see this big paragraph to start the second page? I skipped that one too. And the bitch of it is, I wrote the whole thing out so I wouldn't run long. I wrote it out and timed it out last night. Either stay on script or don't write a script. Jeez, I'm criminies, Brian. I need the correct pronunciation of the doctor's name. Oh, and I also need his first name when he calls in. Huh? Yeah. When he calls in, you ask him. Yeah. Second congressional district will come out of the courts. It's simple. Louisiana's 33% black population, therefore 1/3 of 6 congressional districts. Number 2, prepare yourself All right, dude. No. So I disagree. Because if you have 1/3 of every single district, then you're just losing. Then, like, there's no way to carve that up. And the courts have backed this up so far. And I think they've already thrown out one. Wait a minute. I have the press release. Hang on. Hang on. Let me quell your negativity here, Galen. I understand why you're feeling cynical. Nope. Wrong press release. Damn it. I had the other one last week and I got rid of it because I thought we were done with it. Jeff Landry's office. Go to Jeff Landry's website. It should be the second or third press release down. It's unconstitutional to carve things up, to gerrymander things based off of race. It's unconstitutional. I don't think the courts can put into play based off of that. State's outstanding players were all starters. The final score was big enough to question whether the individual plays made the difference in the win. Warren Morris off the bench, walk-off home run. Yeah, true. True. Galen says suicide rates were way up. This is the untold story behind the pandemic. So, and I'm trying to set the table for a larger conversation moving forward. I don't like to pick apart or Monday morning quarterback individual decisions on a day-to-day basis, but when we can look at things with data gathered over time, we can make a bigger point. What we're learning now is the lockdown potentially, or on a generous side, reduced COVID deaths by 0.2%. Okay? How much was suicide up? How much was domestic violence up? How much was substance abuse up, therefore opioid deaths? If you combine those three numbers and that number of deaths exceeds the number of lives saved, then you made the wrong call. Now, hindsight being 2020, you couldn't know that going in. You can't know what's going to trigger from that end, right? But you can learn, adapt, and change moving forward. And that's where we need to really focus our efforts. Eliminate the monopoly that LSU has on medical marijuana and reduce the price for medical patients and watch the amount of opioid overdoses. Okay, first of all, don't blame LSU for that. That's the state legislature's fault. Good Day Farms stepped up to the plate to serve, and we had John Davis, the president of Good Day Farms, on not long ago. Dude wants competition. He wants it out there. But they're fighting a long-standing battle against the negative propaganda about medical marijuana, so much so that I had somebody ask me, why is it when we talk about medical marijuana, we never talk about the bad side? Only the good side. And I'm like, why is it when we talk about a new cancer treatment, we only talk about the good side? Like, why is it when we talk about anything good, we only talk about the good side? Like, nobody ever talks about the downside of seatbelts, right? Why is it we only talk about the good side of seatbelts? Saving lives. Idiots. You know, nobody ever talks about how if you've got IBS, that seatbelt makes you feel more constriction and have to poop. Sorry. I'm not wrong! I'm not wrong. You push it back from the buffet, and you get in your car, you're like, oh, yeah, let me, all right. Well, who? Oh, yeah. I got you. I'm being stupid for the sake of being stupid. Yeah. We'll get back into it in a minute. .706 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. So we got a lot of ground to cover in this hour. It is Heart Month. We're going to be talking with the folks at Our Lady of the Lake in our next segment, Talk about preventing heart disease. Talk about what's common about heart disease. I'll be hard-pressed not to ask a question or two about the pandemic, because one of the things we've learned 2 years into it, I know we were talking about the mental health aspect a little while ago, but should the pandemic be shedding light on our comorbidities? Heart disease, probably the biggest of all of those. Diabetes is in there too. Morbid obesity is in there as well. Of course, the obesity leading to the diabetes and the diabetes and heart disease. We'll talk about all of it with Our Lady of the Lake in our next segment. We're also talking about jobs. Stephen Wagaspak from LABI is going to hop on board. We are 4 days away from their annual conference, which I'll be at Thursday on location. We don't do a whole lot of on-location stuff in the morning, but this is one that I can't pass up. The first of two back-to-back annual conferences I'm going to be at. There'll be another one coming up in March. We'll tell you about as we get closer to. Got top stories and trending coming your way shortly. Speaking of upcoming conferences, and this is not the one I was talking about. Speaking of upcoming conferences, Hope Ministries is getting on board or is on board with Rise LA. We're talking about those job numbers from January. We can only hope that's the start of a trend because Louisiana has been in a workforce crisis for some time. Our companies are experiencing a revolving door of low to middle income employees. And while there's a revolving door at a number of businesses that are trying to keep their heads above water, for a number of low income families, they're just straight up drowning. They're looking for a better way. They're looking to move beyond the pandemic, and there is a better way. Join us for Rise LA and learn how Fred Keller, founder and chair of Cascade Engineering, changed the way his company does business, getting hundreds of employees off of welfare while raising profits. Yes, your company's success and your employees' success are not mutually exclusive. Learn more at risela.biz, risela.biz. Louisiana can rise to this challenge, and with Rise LA, we all rise together. Conference is coming up in March, by the way. All right, time for top stories and trending. Let's get it. I-12 had to be shut down for a good chunk last night. A person involved in an overnight crash that shut down the interstate was struck by another vehicle while standing alongside the roadway. Baton Rouge Police Department first responded to the wreck around 10:15 p.m. Sunday on I-12 East near Millerville Road. The initial crash involved several vehicles. Police said the person hit was involved in the earlier crash, was standing away from the wreck when they were hit by another vehicle. That person and three other individuals were taken to a hospital. At least two of them suffered serious injuries. The interstate actually reopened around 2:30 in the morning. A man was arrested. This is the one Condon was talking about. A man was arrested after attempting to burglarize the Baton Rouge Police Department. I'm sorry. A spokesperson for the department said 30-year-old Twan Nguyen was, whose mugshot looks like someone told him, "Say grrr, make a mean face, Twan." He was arrested Saturday afternoon. Nguyen was charged with simple criminal damage of property, simple burglary, and possession of Schedule II drugs. No word yet as to what he was after inside the police department that he was trying to burglarize, but this was not exactly Ocean's 11. A man was arrested after stabbing an employee at the Be Quick gas station Sunday afternoon. East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office said the man walked into the gas station along Greenwell Springs Road around 5:30 p.m. Witnesses told deputies the man was talking to himself before walking behind the counter, pulling out a knife and stabbing the cashier. Sheriff's Department says a Baton Rouge firefighter saw the violent exchange, took the suspect to the ground so the cashier could run to safety. How about that, huh? According to the Sheriff's Office, the cashier suffered non-life-threatening injuries and is expected to be okay. The suspect was taken into custody and arrested. Unclear what charges he will face. What is with Be Quick, man? What is it with Be Quick? Okay, first of all, we all remember the shooting back in 2016. That started at a Be Quick, right? And then you had the road rage incident, was that last year or year before last, that where the guy pulled into the parking lot of the Be Quick, complete happenstance that it happened to be Be Quick, or is the car wash behind him, the one off Perkins Road? And now you got firefighters taking dudes out at the Be Quick off Greenwell Springs. They got the trifecta. You got Airline, you got Perkins, you got Greenwell Springs. I mean, can't catch a break. Multiple rooms in Herget Hall were broken into and burglarized early Saturday morning, and a car was stolen, according to campus police. LSU's police department said the burglaries occurred between 3 a.m. and 8 a.m. Saturday. Officers said the doors were all unlocked. I mean, yeah, you're in a dorm, but still, you're in a dorm. Lock your doors. Herget Hall, it's the one right next to Miller, right? Yeah. See, I'm not that old. I still remember a campus map. All right. Officers are investigating a homicide after finding a man dead inside his Huron Street home Friday night. According to BRPD, 27-year-old Alvanta Pointer was found dead around 7:10 p.m. Officers said Pointer had been shot to death. Anyone with information is asked to call Crime Stoppers at 344-STOP. Those are your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending this morning. Alvin Kamara arrested Sunday after allegedly beating someone up in a Las Vegas nightclub. According to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, the victim was at a hospital Saturday afternoon, reported battery to officers around 5:50 p.m. I mean, that's a little early to get started on a Saturday evening in Vegas, right? The victim told, although there's no clocks, who the hell knows? The victim told officers he was beaten up by Kamara at a nightclub in the 3500 block of South Las Vegas Boulevard. Officers arrested Kamara Sunday, said he was taken into custody without incident. Kamara was booked for battery resulting in substantial bodily harm. He was his bail was set at $5,000. They did not release what sort of injuries the victim suffered. As for Kamara, I'm not showing where he played in the Pro Bowl, so I'm guessing that took him out of competition. I didn't watch the Pro Bowl, so who knows. All right, it's time to talk Heart Month. That's coming up next. We've got Our Lady of the Lake on the line. Medical Mondays coming your way after this. All right. Denzel or Denzel? Denzel Moraes, okay. All right. Galen says, Bradley, marijuana is not a substitute to opioids for addicts. No comparison. Galen, I'm curious about that. Okay. I've been prescribed opioids in the past. They clearly work. I walk around with a lot of pain on a day-to-day basis, and I'm dying to get prescribed something that would fall under that edible category because I don't think I could smoke. But at the same time, though, I don't think I have enough time in any one chunk to walk down that road. So I'm curious to know what level of effectiveness and what the shake-off is. Like if I, on a Friday evening, were to consume an edible, when I wake up hungover Saturday morning, do you have those effects? I don't know. I need to stop being a wuss and just dive in and try some of this shit. We'll dive in. Yes, it is time for Medical Monday, and it's time to talk about matters of the heart. No, actual matters of the actual heart. February is Heart Month, and we're talking a little heart disease. Joining us now from Our Lady of the Lake is Dr. Denzel Moraes. Dr. Moraes, good morning. How are you? Welcome to Talk 107.3.
Good morning, Brian.
Glad to have you on this morning. Glad to be talking about this. If for no other reason than COVID-19 has brought a lot of heart issues to the forefront and a lot of things that folks in Louisiana especially should be taking seriously. So let's start with heart disease, cardiovascular disease. What are we looking at here? How common is this, especially in our backyard?
Yeah, despite COVID, Brian, heart disease still kills more Americans than any other disease. In fact, 800,000 people die each year in the United States. By the time we're done with this medical minute, 2 Americans will have passed from either heart attack, stroke, heart failure, rhythm problems. 1 in 3 patients or adults in this community have high blood pressure, and most of them unfortunately don't know about that. Smoking and diabetes still continue to be on the rise here in South Louisiana. So heart disease is pretty common.
I don't know how in 2022 smoking can be on the rise, but there we are. I mean,
Yeah.
it baffles me. So let's talk about prevention. Obviously, that's going to be number one. But what can we be doing to prevent heart disease individually? What can we take on our own?
Yeah, I think the American Heart Association has a very simple, what they call Life Simple 7, and they have an excellent website. Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center, too, has a website that outlines these. But, avoiding smoking, when I say smoking, I'm using the general broad category of tobacco products, vaping. Trying to avoid that. If you don't start, certainly that's a good situation, obviously. But also, if you are smoking, there's some excellent quit smoking programs that are in the community, and your physicians and providers can let you know about this. The second one is being active. 150 minutes of exercise a week, Brian, is a great way to keep your heart healthy. And, doing this on a regular basis helps reduce the incidence of cancer and diabetes, too.
Wait, how many minutes a week?
About 150 minutes a week is the average guideline. So 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week of moderate exercise, brisk walking, or something like that would be fantastic. Eating a heart-healthy diet, switching to more plant-based or Mediterranean-type diet, knowing your weight and maintaining a healthy weight, again, is another important part. And then things that you could check with your physician, your blood pressure. If you don't have a blood pressure cuff at home, the next time you're at the physician's office, and at least once a year visits are recommended, ask them what your blood pressure is. Your goal should be 130/80 or less. Know your cholesterol. And lastly, something we often forget is a fasting blood sugar. This should be checked in adults periodically to make sure you're not developing a condition called prediabetes or even diabetes. So, Brian's Life Simple 7 on our website, our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center, and it's American Heart Association based.
How often do you see, or how easy is it for folks, especially in Louisiana, to fall into the trap of it's inevitable? The number of us who have heart disease or diabetes in our bloodlines, who have relatives who have died from heart disease or who live with taking insulin shots the whole time, the number of folks who have smoked for 20 years, so they say, well, it's already too late. How hard is it to fight back the it's inevitable argument?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think if you look at some of the initial gains we made in cardiovascular disease, initially when smoking was really, there was a campaign against smoking, better lifestyles, better medications, we saw a significant decline in cardiovascular disease. This gain, however, in the last several years has been reversed, and now we're seeing an increase in cardiovascular disease. So there is definitely environmental things you can do, but you're right, there is a genetic component, and we're getting better at genetics. We're getting better at predicting who could have potential cardiovascular conditions with genetic testing. So that combined with the clinical evaluation can help a patient. So it is not inevitable. Certainly an individual can do a lot to prevent the onset of heart disease by doing the Life Simple 7.
We're talking with Dr. Denzel Moraes about common heart problems here in Louisiana and throughout. So that's what we can do as individuals. What can we do as a community?
That, again, a fantastic question. I think our community is primed. We live in a beautiful part of the country, taking advantage of our green spaces. Developing safe walking trails, biking trails, are part of our community, and communities can gather in small, individual areas, like where you live in your home area, or you can work with legislation. In schools, nursing home, restaurants, understanding nutrition. And posting calorie values is important as well. So we can work all the way from a very small, community all the way through to legislation to help bring cardiovascular disease to the forefront.
Doc, what's Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center? What does their HVI offer?
So the Heart and Vascular Institute is really a gem that we have in our community. It's really we're a regional leader in cardiovascular disease. We have physicians that have come from all parts of the country, from Boston, Cleveland Clinic, Seattle, Texas Heart, and really it's a group of cardiologists that have come together. And really, we put patients first. We have developed a fantastic program here where we get referrals from all over the region for conditions ranging anywhere from our preventative programs all the way through to high-risk surgeries, treating atrial fibrillation, vascular disease, and more recently, structural heart disease. So folks that have holes in their heart, for example, or valvular abnormalities, don't need to leave town. They can have the entire evaluation, treatment, and follow-up done here in Baton Rouge. So, one of the things that we've put first in the last evaluation and plans for the Heart and Vascular Institute is really to listen to what our patients are asking us, listen to what they need, and really listen to what the community needs, and then we develop quality programs, putting the patient first. So very exciting to work as part of at the Heart and Vascular Institute here in Baton Rouge.
What are you hearing when you listen? What are the needs that you're hearing about?
I think there's a certain amount of fear about heart disease, fear of diagnosis, fear of knowing what's coming next. So we build a team of professionals around the physician and the patient. We have any folks ranging from specialized nurses that are trained to listen to this, all the way through to social workers, clinical pharmacists that can really help the patient. So each patient's needs are going to be different, Brian. And I think we make that first, and then really the quality and safety of the healthcare product we deliver is constantly improving. Each day I come to work, one of the four things is how can we do better? How can we make this a better institution? And this has been shown in our recent accolades. The American College of Cardiology recognized the Heart and Vascular Institute here at the Lake as a heart care center of excellence, which is really the highest accolade you can achieve from the American Heart Association and American College of Cardiology combined. So very excited to be part of this, ongoing effort to really bring top-notch quality to Baton Rouge.
I would imagine an accolade like that, and congratulations, an accolade like that would coincide with a number of new technologies and treatments being introduced. So what new technology and treatments are you excited about?
Yeah, this is the fantastic part about being part of cardiovascular medicine. What we did 2 years ago is almost already outdated. We have new things. We have easier ways to treat patients. For example, something simple like our preventative programs, trying to get to reduce diabetes. We have better diagnoses, we have earlier diagnoses, and we have better medications. On the more extreme side, high-risk surgeries that were being done through open heart surgery, we can actually do now through the groin, where it's less invasive for the patient. Patients can, what would be a 5 or 6 day hospital stay, can go home the next day or even the same day. So a lot of exciting new technology, and we try and bring that to Baton Rouge as quickly as possible. And again, the safety and quality of our care is always at the top of our game.
Let's get back around to those patients a little bit. And Dr. Denzel Morris is our guest. Doc, we talk about listening to the patient's needs and what you've been seeing. What kind of trends are out there among patients, condition-wise, symptoms that we're seeing that are becoming more common that the rest of us can be on the lookout for?
Yeah, I think because we do have an aging population, Brian. Folks are getting older, in that regard. You do see more common conditions, and the common one is heart attacks. We're seeing our incidence of heart attacks stabilized about a decade ago, but beginning to increase. A condition called atrial fibrillation, which is an irregular heartbeat, is increasing as well. And then, we're seeing more blockages in legs and carotid arteries, and part of that may be better diagnostic tools, but also patients having more strokes. So all of this, and I think it kind of circling back to where we started, as we're seeing folks developing more higher incidence of high blood pressure, higher incidence of diabetes, particularly in our younger patients, all the way down to high school students developing this condition, primarily due to risk factors that we could control. we're going to be seeing a lot of these cardiovascular conditions moving forward as folks get older. But it does start young, and we've got to work with prevention.
No, absolutely, and I would imagine a lot of those blockages and whatnot. I mean, yes, it all starts with a good diet for sure, but the physical activity is probably the hardest to stay on top of. I'm just guessing.
Absolutely.
I mean, time is probably our rarest commodity right now, and if you're going to chop something out of your schedule, for most folks, it's hitting the gym or walking around the block a couple times. I mean, something as simple
That's
as
like
that.
making it part of a routine. Have a regular schedule. Involve folks in your exercise program so you're held accountable. If you join a gym, have a certain day that you go on. Have your gym clothes in the back of the car, so when you're tempted to just drive past the gym, you're going to have to stop. So a positive attitude, reducing stress, focusing on diet and exercise, it certainly goes a long way to preventing heart disease.
And it's amazing how quickly it could spiral out of. If you're overstressed and overworked, you're going to eliminate the gym because you don't have time. You're going to eat poorly as comfort food, and those things combined: stress, lack of exercise, bad diet, and they send you down that path. I do want to ask you one more question about the pandemic, because what we've seen with COVID deaths and comorbidities, cardiac disease, 30% of COVID deaths have had cardiac disease. Congestive heart failure, 16%. Diabetes, 36%. Hypertension, 61%. Obesity, 24%. How much has the pandemic been an eye-opener for all these problems that your field has been trying to wake us up to in the past?
That's a great observation. For sure, cardiovascular disease and COVID are intertwined. Really, when you look at a lot of the issues that happen with COVID, it's the formation of clots in blood vessels. And all those risk factors that you just described increase vascular inflammation, as we call that. So more folks with cardiovascular disease will have poorer outcomes with COVID infection. So it's like two Venn diagrams, if you remember, that kind of intersect together and really can be quite potent. So we have seen certainly more deaths, but it was interesting at the beginning of the COVID pandemic in 2020, we saw less patients coming in with heart attacks and strokes, and that was, unfortunately, what we realized is a lot of folks are staying at home. So if you do have symptoms of chest pain, shortness of breath, if it's an emergency, don't drive, call 911. But do not ignore your symptoms. Go see your physician and discuss your symptoms with him. Staying at home is not the answer.
He is Dr. Denzel Morris. Before we let you go, where can we go if we want to learn more about heart disease?
We have a website, our LABI Lake Regional Medical Center, so ololrmc.com/heart, HEART. And there's a test there. It's a free 10-question quiz that will give you your cardiovascular risk, and you can go from there. So I would strongly encourage all our folks to take that free 10-question quiz and start having a healthy heart. So happy Heart Month, Brian.
And happy Heart Month to you as well. We'll be talking about this all month with the folks from Our Lady of the Lake. Dr. Morris, thank you so much for the time this morning.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. It was, we're going to be talking about this all month long, as it is Heart Month all month long. And I didn't mean to harp on the COVID aspect of this, but we've been hit in the face with the numbers on a regular basis. These two things are not mutually exclusive. Like you said, if you look at the Venn diagram, there's a ton of crossover here. So much so that the percentages, when you combine multiple comorbidities, the percentages total up over 100%. Anyway, we'll be touching on different heart topics throughout the month of February when we have our Medical Monday segments with the folks over at Our Lady of the Lake. One more time, that website was ololrmc.com/heart. Maybe take that test. Heart disease, it's in a lot of folks' families. Diabetes, in a lot of folks' families. Getting ahead of it, an ounce of prevention being worth a pound of cure, absolutely. All right, we're going to check news. We're going to check news. We're going to check traffic. We're going to check weather. We'll do it all. When we come back, we're going to talk jobs. We're going to talk jobs. We're going to talk about the rising price of oil. And we're going to talk about LABI's upcoming conference. It is this week. Can you still get in? Short answer is yes. Stephen Wagasback is going to join us with the longer answer right after this. And we're not done, by the way. We're checking in on the redistricting session next hour with State Senator Sharon Hewitt. Here comes CBS News. He was good. He was good. Oh, man. Da, 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 da. Ha! Da, 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 da. Who sent me a message? Oh, yeah, a little direct message here. Good job, Bradley. Do you happen to know what day you had? Good day for back and watch that day. January 5th. I don't remember what segment he was, but he was in studio. So if you want to fast forward to see another guest in studio, that would probably be the best. I remember it was January 5th because we were medical marijuana became smokable. Medical marijuana became legal this year. So I was hoping to get him on day one. He said, let's get a day or two under our belts. I said, okay, cool. And I believe he was fighting COVID, maybe. I don't remember. Galen says Jeff Landry won his victory, and you quote that, in state court. But the Voting Rights Act is a federal law, and when minorities sue, they will do so in federal court. I hate gerrymandering, but we'll see. I wish you could just chop out that negativity, man. I understand why you're cynical about it. Every state legislator we've had on has been on the other side on this one, and I'm not saying you're wrong because it's still yet undetermined. But I don't know. Oh, cool. Scusi. Did Queen Elizabeth step down? Oh, wow. Camilla will be known as Queen Consort when Charles is king. Whatever that is. A Florida man steals a car. A train isn't crashing into a house. This is such a Florida man thing to happen. Port St. Lucie, spring training home of the New York Mets. Troy, what's the deal with seatbelts? Only half of it is a belt over a seat. The other half is a strap over your chest. Right? What's the deal with that? You just as soon give them baby aspirin. Marijuana just won't do for opioid addicts. Chest definition enhancers. I like it. Do we have a Geiger counter going off next to him? Wait, what? Wait, I wasn't hearing this. Did it sound bad on the air? He sounded fine to me. Oh, crap. I hate when that happens. Oh. Oh. Okay. .736 to Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. So thanks again to Dr. Mores from Our Lady of the Lake talking heart health. Now let's talk business. Stephen Wagasback is the president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. He joins us every Monday and joins us right now. Stephen, good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Brian. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. I guess you are doing good. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
How'd you celebrate?
So let's see. It was a good day. Yesterday was my birthday, 48 years old. Woke up, went to church with the fam, took my mom and the fam to lunch, and then after that, my youngest son and I hit the golf course and played 18 yesterday. So a little faith, little family, little fun. It's a good day to spend a birthday, and it's just a good reminder I'm not 50 yet. So as long as you can say that, that's a win, man.
Oh, yeah, big time. And then after 50, as long as you can say you have another birthday, it's a win, right?
Exactly. It's a moving target. Come on now. Once you're 50, it's like, hey, I'm not 60 yet. You keep playing the game so you can motivate yourself.
Hey, speaking of playing the game, how'd you play?
I played like I usually do. How about that? But the cool thing is just the two of us, and I don't get many chances just to kind of kill an afternoon, playing with my son because his wrestling season just ended, and he's kind of in a weak, spot where he doesn't have any practice or anything like that, and so it was cool. I mean, it's crazy in schedules these days of the families. There's not many days where we both have 5 hours to kill, and so we both had it yesterday. So I just enjoyed the heck out of watching him approach shots and kind of slog through around like his old man does. And I just had a good time rolling around the cart with him.
Very, very nice. And I'm a little bit jealous of the idea of having 5 hours to kill. That's a rare commodity.
Yeah, exactly. I don't get it very much either. That's why my golf game stinks.
All right, so speaking of having 5 hours to kill, it's crunch time. We're going to get to the jobs report. We're going to get to oil prices, all that other stuff later. But it's crunch time. You don't have 5 hours to kill at all this week because the big conference is coming up Thursday.
Yeah, absolutely, man. For those who don't know, LABI's annual meeting is this week. And for us, this is kind of our big annual deal where we bring in kind of all the business leaders and policymakers from around the state. We gather. It's a great networking opportunities, a lot of good discussion on policy and important matters for the state, et cetera. It all kicks off Wednesday, whereas Wednesday evening at our offices, we have what we call our big legislative reception where a lot of the who's who and legislators and statewide officials and business leaders will be there. It is a free event to LABI members, and so any LABI member out there, come on by and pass a good time with us and get to meet some interesting people. And then the next day is kind of our big deal. It's at Crown Plaza. That's a ticketed event, but it kicks off early in the morning where Haldane Live will be broadcasting from the Crown Plaza.
Yep.
And then after a couple of hours of action-filled entertainment from Brian Haldane, at 8:30, we kick off our first panel, which is going to be a split panel. The first half will be the CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield, Dr. Steve Uberdi, and the CEO of Oshner, which will be Warner Thomas. And they will talk about kind of the future of healthcare, not just like sitting around talking about COVID, but really like, 10 years from now, where's healthcare going to be? People are getting more mobile and agile. They want healthcare on demand. There's a much more talk about wellness programs. And so they're going to talk about where that market's going. And then after that, we're going to have your next guest here, Senator Sharon Hewitt and Rep. Stefanski, John Stefanski from the House side, to talk about what's the latest and greatest, where redistricting is, where it's going. By that point, we should have all the maps roughly moving, and so it'll be a pretty detailed discussion. So folks can come hear that panel on Thursday morning at the Crown Plaza, and then after that, we roll into our big lunch at the Crown Plaza. It'll be a 1,000-person ballroom type event, and Sarah Thomas will be our guest speaker. She's the first female to ever referee a Super Bowl, and she did that 2 years ago. And there'll be a special guest introducing her via video, which is kind of cool. But we're looking forward to Sarah's comments. We had a pre-call with her a week or two ago, and she is funny, and she is smart, and she is cool. And so that's she's going to be a good speaker, and folks will want to do that. So if you're in the mood this week, Wednesday evening, Thursday at the Crown Plaza, come join us and meet all the right business leaders and elected officials around the state and get to hear their thoughts on where Louisiana's going.
Not to give anything away from the keynote speaker, but what is she talking about? I mean, as the first female referee in a Super Bowl, What's the topic of her discussion? What's the topic of her speech?
I mean, basically, she's going to talk about kind of her path to getting to that point. I mean, if you think about what an NFL referee is, I mean, quite frankly, she broke through a glass ceiling to get to that level.
Yeah.
And she's going to talk about some of the efforts that she went through. And she just got an interesting personality and viewpoint on life. And, just in a little pre-talk I had with her, it's obvious to me she's one of those talented people that could have been successful in any career path she chose. Yeah. She just happened to pick refereeing football. But she just got the right personality and mindset and work ethic to succeed at everything. And so I think that type of message, we try to get a message like that each year to kind of encourage folks to walk away thinking a little bit, pushing themselves, and try to, we figure if we can get people motivated to kind of, reach new heights, that collective energy can benefit the state in many ways.
Absolutely it can. Are tickets still available?
We are at a sold-out event.
What?
But there is a waiting list.
Okay.
And always at this, I shouldn't say always, but it's not uncommon this time at this time of week of our annual meeting to hear from folks that a conflict's come up or whatever. So there's a chance we could go to the waiting list. But as of right now, there's a waiting list. So let us know, and we'll do our best to fit you in some way.
Yeah, it's the middle. We're still in a pandemic, so the likelihood that someone's like, we're going to have to quarantine our entire table.
Exactly. So we are anticipating getting, one or two of those this week maybe. And so while we do have a waiting list and there are people on it, we're going to do everything we can this week to kind of find seats for people because we want there to be a good full room for Sarah.
Absolutely. And, like you said, that starts off on Thursday morning. Well, it starts off Wednesday evening. But Thursday morning with my show, y'all, the last time we did this, the guest list y'all brought to the table was phenomenal. I mean, this was a ride in a Cadillac for me. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's my to-do list today. And so if you have any secret requests or greatest hits requests, shoot me a text today, and I'll get to work on it and do whatever I can to get you some good ones.
Find the list from the last time and replicate it. That's it, man. That was so smooth, so good. And the content was phenomenal from so many different angles. Let's talk jobs report. We saw it Friday. What's your takeaway?
The good news is that things are recovering to extent, and especially if you compare it to where we were at the depths of the pandemic. But the truth is we still have a lot of work to do here in Louisiana, and I'm viewing Louisiana. I'm viewing it compared to the rest of the South right now, and other southern states are really growing at a rapid clip. We're still kind of slogging behind when compared to the competitors in the South. And, I've said on this show several times over the last month or two, right now this is a growth period for the South. Other states are booming right now. And so us just kind of gradually getting back to normal is not success, not in this growth era for the South. We need to be striving for much more. And so, I like that we're moving in the right direction, but the truth is we got a long way to go, man. And we still have too many people who are not entering the workforce. Our workforce numbers are still lower than they were almost a decade ago. We had about 2 million people working almost a decade ago, and we're still under that in number of people working. So that tells me that people have left the state, and that tells me too many people are not looking back for jobs. And so marginal improvement is a good thing, but it's not when you compare it to where the rest of the South is booming right now.
Is this something we can attack sequentially? Because we are still looking at having to refill jobs that were left vacant because of the pandemic. So how do you balance the refilling versus the new stuff?
Well, I think you have to take near-term steps and long-term steps at the same time. You can't always say, well, if it doesn't have immediate impact, it's not worth doing. That's why we wake up 50 years later not fixing problems we've always had. And so, there are programs like Fast Start and others, and there are, community college programs that we can quickly get kids into those programs, and that's all well and good. But at the same time, you got to do the long-term things. You got to continuously drive down that income tax rate. You got to continuously invest in infrastructure. You got to continuously push public school reforms to make sure that system gets better and better. You got to continuously push to remediation to make sure over the last 2 years, as kids have stayed home, we can get them back up to speed as quickly as possible. So, some of the things we have to do aren't going to have near-term spikes on that front, but it doesn't mean they're not worth doing. In fact, it means that they're more worth doing. And so you'll see us in this regular session begin to have some of that dialogue, especially when it comes to education, and especially when it comes to the tax code. Try to continuously find ways to whittle down that income tax, especially. When you look at the states in the South that are kicking butt right now, it's not rocket science. People may not like the answer or like the answer, but the truth is what the truth is. And the truth is Texas and Tennessee and Florida, those are the states that are really doing well.
Okay, but
and
go ahead.
It's pretty easy because people want to go to states that are not going to pay, too much taxes, and they're going to want to go to states that have good public schools and good local communities.
There's a common denominator in those three states, though, and I don't know if it's a hurdle we can overcome in any short form here in Louisiana. And I apologize for being cynical about it, but those three states have no income tax.
Exactly.
But how do you take bites at the elephant while at the same time acknowledging that this is the biggest factor? If we want to get in that game, we have to be in this game. Like, how do you address that on it's such a monumental ask?
Well, you don't eat the elephant at one time, man. I mean, if you look at what happened last year, there was a movement to remove one of the exemptions and lower the tax rates accordingly. That was passed by the legislature. It passed by the people on the ballot. We've seen income tax for the individual side and the corporate side go down as a result. And look, as we continue to see economic growth, that franchise tax can go down as well. And so that was one step. We need to take the next step. And so this year in the budget, as they have all this temporary money in the budget from the COVID response and some of the false sales tax receipts because of people stayed home and online shopped all day, as you take some of that out of the budget and you look at what the real raw numbers are, where you have growth, there's two ways you can do it. You can take a look at that growth, it's real growth, and you can either put it into an inflated government or you can put it into a more reformed tax code. Obviously, we would say put it more into a reformed tax code. But those policy battles are going to happen in the Capitol. So I think you continuously look for ways to squeeze and reform our tax code. And I think that's the only way we can be competitive. Now, that may result in people investing more locally, paying more local taxes as compared to state taxes. But look, at the end of the day, if I can pay my taxes locally and not to the state, and then I can sit down with my local leaders and say, I want good schools here in my area, I want good roads here in my area, that's what Texas does. It's not that they don't pay taxes; they just pay more locally. Yep. And so, to me, that's what the growing states are doing. I think that's where we have to look at.
Yes, and the top-down approach has been hammered in. I mean, it's on our state flag, for crying out loud. The mama pelican is feeding the baby pelicans. It's just, it's that ingrained in us. I got about
and that is our tradition. But look, if you look around you, Brian, traditions all over this world right now are being revisited. This is an era where people are willing to say, you know what? Let's take a look at the way we've always done things and have a drastic approach to doing something different. It's always been the stuff that's kind of driving us nuts. Why can't we use that same mindset for something like this, for government? Yes, in Louisiana, typically, everything is flowed through the governor's fingertips. Doesn't matter who's in charge, Republican or Democrat. The winning states don't do it like that. The winning states invest in local decisions and local funding streams. I think we got to find a pathway to get there. And if we set a path that takes 5 years to get there, so be it. Let's do it responsibly. Let's have a responsible march to get there.
Got to ask you about oil prices because this factors in not just the Louisiana jobs, Louisiana investments, but also the cost of doing business in Louisiana. Is an end going to be in sight for the rise in oil prices and, in turn, the price we see at the pump?
Yeah, and it's always been a double-edged sword for Louisiana, right, when it comes to oil prices. If you get to that $100 barrel of oil, obviously, there are some producers and some marginal fields that become more attractive, and all of a sudden it creates incentive. But at the same time, you got working families going to the pump. You've got larger industrial factors that rely on fuel that it adds cost. So, look, it's a double-edged sword. But typically, when you have oil prices like that, you do see more production in some of our oil and gas areas, and that is a good thing for those working people that have been struggling for a while. So that is a good thing. Because if you're a working person in the oil fields in Louisiana, you're employable all over the world at that point. And so that does give our people more options there. So, look, whether you like it or not, it does feel like oil prices are going to be around that $100 level. And so that's just the reality we face. Now, the best way to solve that is to have a rational domestic energy policy. Open up the Gulf. Build some pipelines. Let's start using American energy to supply ourselves, not depend on foreign energy. That's the best way to bring prices down. It's no coincidence that when we shut the world down and stop producing energy off the Gulf, that's when prices went up. It ain't rocket science. Produce what we got. We're really good. We got a lot of it. And so if the Biden administration will let us do it, I bet you'd see those prices come down.
Not 100%. And that's where the double-edged sword, you'd only be getting one end of it, though. The way it is right now, with the prices going up at the pump, we have to pay for it on the back end while not making it on the front end, and somehow we get both edges of the sword pointed right at us.
Yeah, it's not helpful. But again, the good news is our workers here are so good that they may be recruited. So you may have a Boudreaux and a Thibodeau working in the oil field, They just won't be in the Gulf. They'll be having to go overseas to do it. But, look, at the end of the day, rational policy is going to have to come back into place in the U.S. We cannot continue to just say we're going to ignore traditional fuel sources that we produce here in the country, because the fact is we need them, our economy demands them, and we know how to burn them cleaner than any other country in the world. We got to get back to reality and get back to normalcy, and that means producing our own natural resources here in America.
He is Stephen Waguespack, president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Once again, happy birthday, and I'll see you Thursday.
Thanks, Big Al. I look forward to it.
Yes, sir. Quick break, coming back with the Outside In next. There's no way I was breaking for your money now there. That's so first of all, his level of positivity is fantastic. Like, content is always number one, right? I'm never going to have a segment that isn't informative or entertaining or both. And Steven is awesome. But his level of positivity right there, give it to me all day long.
I feel like every week the LABI segment's always a good one.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
why I keep it. That's why we do it. Love that guy. All right, so State Treasury?
Yes, and then Muya.
Muya's this hour?
Muya was at 52.
Ah, shit. All right.
Was at 35.
All right. What are we looking at here? I'll do Muya next hour. There's no way. I can't get them both in. Hey, can you roll tape on this live read for the Treasury and send it to me? When I come back in, so. No, well, just record the whole thing. I'm going to thank Waguespack again. And then.
I'll just hit record, I'll save it, put it in today's folder.
Okay.
You want me to chop it up, I can, or if you want to chop it up, I can also do that. Doesn't matter to me.
.755 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Got CBS News coming your way in about 5 minutes from right now. Thanks again to Stephen Waguespack from the LABI for hopping on board. It's very easy to fall into a cynical mindset when it comes to looking at something like Florida, Texas, Tennessee, zero income tax. How do you fight that battle? And like I said, that's eating an elephant, and like Stephen says, you don't eat an elephant in one bite. I appreciate his insight every week, but I really, this week especially, appreciate his positivity. And I'm jealous that he had 5 hours to play golf on a Sunday, but that's neither here nor there. We got the Outside In coming your way in just a minute. Before the Outside In, got to ask you, how much is your time worth? How much is your time worth? If I were to ask for 5 minutes of your time and sent you to lacashclaim.org, lacashclaim.org, what would it take to be worthwhile for those 5 minutes? Go to lacashclaim.org, enter your name and the city that you're in, and the state treasurer's office has a pool of about $900 million that they're looking to put back in the hands of Louisianans, and some of this money could be yours. Okay, lacashclaim.org. I type in the last name Johnson. That's a pretty common last name, right? Johnson and zip code 70802. 28 pages worth of results from that one name and that one zip code. Getting anywhere from $25 to over $100 for a lot of these, and they don't get into specifics beyond that because, well, it's your money that's going to be taken care of. State Treasurer John Schroeder wants to put this $900 million back in your hands. LACashClaim.org is the website. The process could not be any easier. The Treasurer's Office has gone to great lengths from moving the website from 38th or moving the unclaimed property program from 38th in the nation to among the top 10. And you can get yours, LACashClaim.org. All right, time for the outside in. Let's get it. We're going to start off at East Feliciana Parish. After nearly 3 years in custody, a man was sentenced to life in prison Friday for shooting a woman to death in 2019. East Feliciana Sheriff's Office said Ernest Howard pled guilty on Friday to the 2019 murder of LaShawn Lacey at her residence on Cordoba Drive. Howard was sentenced to life in prison with hard labor and no benefit of parole, probation, or suspension of sentence, according to the Sheriff's Office. In Jefferson Parish, a van crashed through the wall of a Kenner Church's choir room Sunday morning. Kenner police told WWL-TV a member of Our Lady Perpetual Health on Short Street was in the parking lot when they turned on their van's ignition and shifted gears. Suddenly, the van accelerated, crashed through the south wall of the building. Officials said the van broke through the choir section of the church just moments after the choir had walked away. I mean, literal miracle right there. Only minor injuries were reported after the incident, including a member of the choir who twisted an ankle trying to get away from the vehicle. The accident is still under investigation. Police said the driver was not cited. That's C-I-T-E-D. They weren't suggesting the driver was blind. We head over to Lafayette. A Louisiana university says its rate of positive COVID-19 tests is going down, and classes are going back to the classroom. All classes should be back to normal in 2 weeks, by February 21st at UL Lafayette. School said intramural sports will resume. In-person student organization events may continue as long as masks are worn and proper social distancing can be maintained. Closing out in St. Helena Parish, one man was shot to death Saturday afternoon following a fight with his sister. The St. Helena Sheriff's Office is investigating the shooting in the 300 block of Dennis Lee Road. Unclear whether or not the sister's facing any charges. Names have been withheld from the story as of now. That is the outside in. We are due up for a break. We're going to check CBS News here at the top of the hour. Then we'll be back at it right after this on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk in Baton Rouge. So leave a couple seconds before and a couple seconds after so you can hear that it flows part of the show. So we have our all-employee meeting after the show. So Monday mornings I have to bail right at 9 o'clock. I understand we got a couple new hires. I love when we do this. It's one of my favorite things about the employee meetings. We do a thing called 10 questions where new hires have to go to the front of the meeting and sit in front of everybody on the hot seat. And Gordy picks people from around the room to ask questions. And so I love like thinking of a question ahead of time and then getting unbelievably pissed when somebody steals it from me. Like I always want to go first because I don't want my question stolen. So this morning's question is going to be, God, I hope none of my coworkers are watching because they're going to steal it. What's your favorite Winter Olympic event? It's fun. Like people will come up with some off-the-wall questions about, you know, look. So the new employee will give their bio and whatnot. Some people come up with their questions based off of their bio. Like you know, they'll give a fun fact about themselves, and like the follow-up question or one of the 10 questions will be about that fun fact. Sometimes it's something simple like, you know, gumbo, tomatoes or no. You know, what was somebody asked, thank you. Somebody asked a couple trying to for the life of me trying to remember the exact phrasing. Would you rather fight 100 chicken-sized horses or one horse-sized chicken?
100?
100 chicken-sized horses or one horse-sized chicken?
I would definitely do one horse-sized chicken.
No, that's the wrong
Are you
answer.
kidding me, dude? You know how muscular horses are? It doesn't matter how small they are. They got some muscle, bro. 100 of them?
No.
They would trample you. They would totally trample you.
You are losing to a horse-sized chicken. If you had a chicken the size of a horse,
fare better against 100.
I think I can.
100 chicken-sized horses.
I think I will take my chances
for this.
Yeah,
You're
please.
telling me that you think you could take on not one, not two, not 100.
I think my odds are better.
Are they though?
Yes.
Can you outrun 100 horses?
No, they're not horses. They're not horse-sized horses. They wouldn't have the same stride, the same gait, the same gallop.
They can run pretty fast, dude.
I don't care.
Dude, I think you're omitting a crucial fact.
Here's something you're missing out on, though, is the beak. The beak and the talons.
100%.
A chicken-sized horse is not going to have a beak. You're not going to get pecked away because it's still a horse.
I'm not saying it'll be easy, but it's a lot easier than 100
horse-sized
horses.
chicken.
It doesn't matter if they're fun-sized horses. They will absolutely eviscerate you. I refuse to believe that you think there's a clear-cut answer here.
There is no. That's what makes it a great question. There's no answer.
How could you think of fighting 100?
Because when you start taking them out, your odds begin to improve.
You think you're going to have the durability to take out 100 horses?
I think I have the ability to kick the first horse into the second horse, and now it's 98-1. And if I kick the third horse into the fourth horse, it's 96-1.
Right, that's 2 swings, right?
That's right. That's right. I'm 4 horses down, and I'm only 2 swings.
Those are your best swings. Those are your best swings of the entire event.
I'm just saying, I don't want to face a horse-sized chicken.
Neither do I.
Nobody wants to face a horse-sized chicken. You could use a chicken-sized horse against itself.
All right, let's recontextualize this question a bit.
Everybody on YouTube sound off on this.
We have to figure this out.
And by the way, share this back to your Facebook page because we all need comments. Would you rather fight 100 chicken-sized horses or one horse-sized chicken?
You're insane. Let's recontextualize this. Is this in an open field or like in the office here?
Oh, I don't know.
Because if it's in the office, you could funnel them in.
Right.
Then that's more appealing.
Right. You have to have 100 chicken-sized horses coordinate within themselves to circle me? No, bro. They're just coming at me. I'm like directional.
I'm thinking if
unidirectional.
it's an open field, it's easier to evade one animal than 100. Because you can't just train them like it's,
it's
zombies
chicken.
or something.
It's a chicken, bro. You've got to worry about the beak. You got to worry about the penetration of being pecked by a chicken.
All right. Well, it seems like we're at a impasse here.
All right, let's leave it up to YouTube then.
YouTube, what do you
Let's
think?
leave it up to YouTube. That's all that we can do at this point.
Who is right here? Because there's clearly somebody right here.
No, the beauty part is there is no right answer.
No, there's not.
But
I think I'm right. Actually,
so do I.
Scratch that. I know that I'm right. And Brian,
you are not going to defeat a horse-sized chicken.
And you're not going to defeat 100 chicken-sized horses. I don't think you realize how durable horses are.
Can you defeat one chicken-sized horse?
Probably not.
Really?
With my bare hands?
Yes. It's a horse.
One chicken-sized horse.
Right. One.
Yes.
Can you defeat one?
Yes.
Okay. Can you defeat 2?
Yes.
Okay, now you've accepted.
Times it by 50. You got this in the bag.
But you've accepted the premise that you can win one-on-one.
One-on-one,
So now you have to find that arc. You have to find the curve of the breaking point where you're going to get past 50 or you're going to get past 60.
I think 20 will be a hard time for anybody. All right, we got to get back to this.
806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. If you're not watching us on YouTube, I don't know what to tell you at this point. There is no way to recap what Jake and I just went through. except to say go check it out after the show's over with. And while you're there, subscribe and share it with your friends. The real questions are being asked and answered on our YouTube feed. This hour, we're talking with State Senator Sharon Hewitt. We're talking about redistricting. We're about to the point of the second week of the redistricting special session, and Senator Hewitt heads up governmental affairs on her side of the building. We're going to talk about where we're at right now and what we can expect this week and next week as well. Also this hour, looking forward to this, author Addison Armstrong. She has got a book called The Light of Luna Park. We're going to talk with Addison at 8:40 this morning about her book because, well, first of all, she writes historical fiction, and I want to walk down that path a little bit. But more to the point, we're going to get around to Whoopi Goldberg. As an author, I'm curious of her take as to if you're writing historical fiction, you know it's going to be read in your time. But what happens when it's read 50 years from now, 100 years from now? How do you keep historical context not off of the history the book is written about, but the history of when the book was written? How does that play into the social milieu of where you're going to be in the future? Going to be a fun conversation to have, for sure. Right now, though, it's the part of the show where Jake takes us back in time for this day in history.
I am still not going to get your logic over.
That's YouTube. That is not for on air. That's YouTube. No, it's YouTube only.
I know.
All right.
I agree.
Yeah. Moving on.
Tune in on YouTube, though. Yeah. 1795.
A little different there.
Yeah, just a couple hundred years. The 11th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was ratified. It affirms power of states.
Oh?
Yeah.
States have power?
Yeah.
Well, you're saying we're the United States of America? We don't just funnel everything up to the federal government? Anything not covered within the Bill of Rights is delegated back to the states? That's still a thing?
I'm going to plead the fifth.
My salty?
Plead the fifth on that one.
Yeah.
1817, Baltimore becomes the first American city lit by gas street lamps.
Oh, gaslighting in Baltimore. Oh, wait, that's not what you meant.
Come on. The first turned on at Market and Lemon Streets. It is currently Baltimore and Holiday Streets.
Yeah, that's not Baltimore and Holiday Street.
No.
Those lights aren't on.
1845, the Portland vase, thought to date to the 1st century BC, is shattered into more than 80 pieces by a drunken visitor to the British Museum.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
That's tough. That's real tough.
That is a rough day.
For everybody involved, honestly. 1914, Charlie Chaplin debuts silent film character The Tramp in Kid Auto Races at Venice.
Cool.
Charlie Chaplin, what a legend. 1940, Walt Disney's second feature-length movie, Pinocchio, premieres in New York City.
Okay.
1965, I put this on here.
1964.
No, this is 65 I'm about to talk about.
Okay.
I find it hilarious, and that's the sole reason that I'm putting it on here. 1965, George Harrison's tonsils were removed. They decided to put that on the website, and I thought it was funny enough to
And they didn't put 1964 on the website.
No.
Some boy band arrived from England on this day in 1964.
Oh, what boy band was that?
That was the Beatles.
Oh.
It's kind of a big day.
It's pretty big, I'd say.
I don't care for them, but they're pretty popular.
1970, LSU's Pistol Pete Maravich scores 69 points in a losing cause.
How do I not have that one?
How do you not have that one? I thought if I didn't take that, you were definitely going to be like,
Seriously?
how could you? How could you do this on a Monday? 1974, Mel Brooks' film Blazing Saddles opens in movie theaters.
Okay, follow-up question for the YouTube audience.
Oh, no.
Could Blazing Saddles fly today? That's too easy of a question. The answer is no.
Definitely
You're
not.
not getting away with Blazing Saddles today.
No.
And so that lends us back to the topic about the author that's going to come on with us at 8:40. If you write something in its time, it has to be respected in its time, does it not? It can't be looked at through the lens of, well, we don't say those things anymore.
I think there's a case for both sides for sure. But 1988, the 38th NBA All-Star Game in Chicago Stadium, the East beat the West 138-133. Who was the MVP of that?
That would be one 6'6" guard out of North Carolina, Michael Jordan.
Not bad.
Thank you.
You were correct. 2010. Could you guess what happened on this day in 2010?
Yeah, I can, but I want to go back to 1988 first.
Okay, what happened then?
The nuptials. The nuptials today. 1988. Heavyweight boxing champ Mike Tyson marries actress Robin Givens. Huge, huge day in history. Exactly 4 years later, Mike Tyson testifies in his rape trial.
2010 Super Bowl, Sunlight Stadium, Miami Gardens, Miami, Florida.
Yeah.
New Orleans Saints beat Indianapolis Colts 31-17. The MVP was that of Drew Brees, New Orleans quarterback.
Yeah. Oh, this day in 1994, speaking of Michael Jordan from the All-Star game,
Yeah.
this day in 94, he signed his baseball contract.
Wow.
I know.
Wow, I love this segment. You just find crazy parallels like that.
Yep.
And finally, this is pretty recent, actually just a year ago, 2021, Sarah Thomas becomes the first woman to referee a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, Florida.
Interestingly enough, Sarah Thomas will be the keynote speaker at LABI's conference later on this week.
Precisely, and that is all the events. Let's get right down to the birthdays. First things first, Ashton Kutcher turns 44.
Why is he first?
I don't know. Chris Rock's 57, though.
Yeah.
We have Matthew Stafford, who will be attending or playing.
Yeah, he's not attending the Super Bowl.
He's over there getting catering.
He's the
in
starting
box.
quarterback.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Isaiah Thomas turns 33.
Not Isaiah Thomas,
Not
the younger Isaiah Thomas.
Not IT.
Not of the Bad Boys.
No. Garth Brooks turns 60.
Yeah.
Shout-outs to him. Steve Nash is 48.
Yeah.
James Spader is 62.
Oh, I love me some James Spader. I'm
good
almost
actor.
done with season 2 of The Blacklist.
It's a good show.
It's yeah, he basically just plays James Spader at this point.
He kind of
From Boston Legal to The Blacklist. He's the same guy.
Yep.
Raymond Reddington. Although he was Alan Shore on Boston Legal, but the character's the same.
For sure. He's also in Avengers. If you didn't know
I
that.
did not know that.
He was Ultron in Avengers Age of Ultron.
Okay.
Sergio Roberto, 29 years old, current Barcelona player, born and bred. Do you have any birthdays for me? That's because that's the last one I got.
Oh, I got a ton. I got
hear
a
'em.
ton of birthdays here. Jawan Howard, Michigan's head Michigan basketball coach, part of the Fab Five, knocked LSU out of the tournament last year. Rick Neuheisel, former Colorado and Washington football coach. Woo! And then a couple of LSU birthdays.
Yeah?
How about Stanley Roberts? Used to be alongside Shaq, a former LSU center, former Clippers center. And I had one more. Where'd he go? Oh, Mo Claiborne.
Hey.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
That's all the birthdays. I didn't have any deaths to
I got
report.
one.
Let's
I
hear
got
it.
one. Frank Robinson, former Baltimore Oriole legend.
Rest in peace to him. Holidays. National Periodic Table Day.
Whatever.
National Marriage Week.
Okay. That's a good week to have leading up to Valentine's Day. Don't think
Indubitably.
it's a coincidence that starts today.
Oh, definitely not. National Fettuccine Alfredo Day.
That shouldn't be a thing.
Why not?
Just cuz.
Well, that is this day in history.
All right, quick break. When we come back, it's time to get inside the redistricting session. State Senator Sharon Hewitt joins us next. Please make sure that's her and let her know she's got about a minute on hold. I haven't been on YouTube because I always have to bump into my emails for that segment. So I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see y'all's answers here.
Oh, good morning, Sharon. How are you? Wonderful. We just had our break. We're going to be live again in just about a minute or two, and we'll get you on, okay? Oh, perfect. You're loud and clear. Please hold.
Oh, I see what you... Okay, Eric sent me over the screen grab of his 15-team parlay or 16-team parlay that LSU screwed. I'm seeing what he did here, though. There were only 2 or 3 teams where... Oh, bruh, this is smart. I need to do this. But, okay, so take a look at your odds in each of these games. Eric took a whole lot of favorites and piled them all together. Like, on the money line, so you got Alcorn at a minus 280. That's pretty, what I'm guessing minus 280 is probably like a 9-point favorite. Southern at a minus 720. I think Southern was a 13-point favorite. I'm trying to remember. Long Beach State at minus 550. Liberty at minus 320. Boy, Liberty's crushing it right now. Virginia Tech at minus 280. That's actually kind of close. He had Utah State at minus 400. Texas State at minus 190. That's really close, especially when they were playing Coastal Carolina, but they were a home team, so they're all right. Wisconsin at minus 410. Boise State at minus 8,000. North Texas at minus 2,500. And Alcorn at minus 280. Wait, did you have Alcorn twice? Yeah, you had Alcorn twice on here. That's interesting. But the rest of the odds, minus 450, minus 365, minus 720, minus 435, minus 365, and LSU was at minus 135. You screwed yourself on this one. You played yourself because you went with a team that was not a huge favorite. I'm just curious, what was the payout on this bad boy if it would have hit? All right. Galen says, "Oh, Galen's on my team. Chickens are vicious, no doubt. Go with 100 chicken-sized horses. It's all in the demeanor." It's a good point. It's a good point. You don't know whether or not those 100 chicken-sized horses even want to fight.
It is you versus that.
Right.
You already know they
You put
want
me in
to
a ring
fight.
with a chicken. Nobody goes to horse fights. People go to chicken fights.
People like this question. You have to be under the assumption that they are locked and loaded, ready to
It's not
scramble.
the size of the chicken in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the chicken. 817 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. So we almost have a week in the books of the 20-day-long special session for redistricting. We are dialing in every single day, talking to a different legislator every single day. When it comes to that session, today we are visited by Senator Sharon Hewitt. She heads up Senate and Governmental Affairs, so this is going to be very much a firsthand look at what's going on inside the state capitol. Senator Hewitt, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Good morning, Brian. Doing great. Thank you.
Glad to have you on this morning. So where are we at almost a full week into the session?
Well, we've worked really hard this first week. My committee has met every day hearing bills. We have passed out of committee a Senate map bill and a congressional bill. Those maps will be voted on the Senate floor most likely on Tuesday.
Okay.
Today we are hearing bills on the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education and the Public Service Commission. Tomorrow we will most likely hear bills on the Supreme Court. The House is moving along at a similar pace as well, so they have bills proposed, in all of those areas as well. So I think we're on track.
When it comes to the House signing off on the Senate districts and the Senate signing off on the House districts, we normally see a lot of cooperation there. It's like y'all do you, we'll do us sort of scenario. But when it comes to the judicial districts, the PSC, and the Bessie board, how much interaction is there between the two different proposed plans?
Well, we have not really talked a whole lot about that. So I don't think there's any consensus yet between the House and the Senate in terms of which bills we favor in those areas. There are some different ideas. There's lots of great ideas on how to configure those districts. And so, we'll continue to move through the process. And, of course, at the end of the day, we will only pass, one congressional bill, one Bessie bill, one PSC bill, and put those on the governor's desk for signature.
Have there been any hints or inklings that I know not having Bessie, PSC, and judicial districts really being talked about a whole lot just yet? Have there been any inklings that what are the early proposals will be challenged by the governor or the courts?
Well, we don't know exactly what the governor will do. I'm sure he's, monitoring all of the testimony and hearing the pros and cons of the various bills. There have been outside groups that have been actively involved in the process to date that are, promising lawsuits. There's nothing you can do to stop people from filing lawsuits.
Right.
And, of course, they're being filed all around the country. So, we anticipate that's a possibility, and so we're making sure that, all of the maps that we ultimately pass are going to be in compliance with all the federal and state laws as well as the redistricting principles that we adopted as a state legislature.
We're talking with State Senator Sharon Hewitt about the redistricting session that she's got a vital role in, heading up the Senate and Governmental Affairs Committee. Senator Hewitt, we got to ask about the congressional districts, and one of the buzzwords you're hearing in just about every headline you see is majority-minority district. There's a lot of talk and a lot of hubbub about creating a second one, but the feasibility of this doesn't seem to be playing out from the outside looking in. What's it like on the inside looking out? Are we going to see a serious challenge to bring a second majority-minority district?
Well, you're right. That is a hot topic at the Capitol. You know, what the Voting Rights Act says a couple of things. You know, and I'll debunk a few things that are, you know, being stated quite often by the public and by the media. The first is, you know, just because you have 1/3 of the population roughly in Louisiana is black, it does not mean that the minority population is entitled to 2 out of 6 congressional districts to be represented in proportion to their population. And that is actually stated specifically in the Voting Rights Act, you know, that you don't have, the minority population does not have a right to be represented in proportion to their population. So that's the first thing. The third thing, the third equals 2 out of 6 districts, that just is not supported in federal law. But what the law does say is that if the minority population is of a sufficient size to justify a district, and if it is compact enough that a district could be drawn that would give the minority population an equal opportunity to elect a candidate of their choice, that you must draw a district to do that. So the key is several things. That minority population has to be sufficiently compact, meaning it matters where you live.
Right.
You have to live enough together in an area to be able to draw a district that's compact and not gerrymandered all over the state. And the second is you have to have an equal opportunity to elect a candidate of your choice, which means voter turnout matters. You cannot just say we want this district to be 50% plus 1 minority and claim that that is giving them an equal opportunity to elect a candidate of their choice. Because we know that voter turnout varies between black voters and white voters, and it varies in different parts of the state, and it varies between elections. And so there are some very smart people out there that do studies to try to predict that and model that. And, you know, the experts that we've hired have said that there is not enough certainty in that data to be able to really accurately model whether a second minority district in the congressional maps would perform, is the word, or function to really allow to function or perform as a minority district. And so that's sort of the crux of the argument. So, you know, one side seems to be happy with drawing a marginally minority district and claiming that that's good enough. You know, we don't believe that it would really function as a minority district, and therefore we would not be in compliance with the Voting Rights Act.
Yeah,
so I know that was a little bit nerdy and a little bit wordy, but it's as much of a legal issue as a map drawing issue with redistricting.
Well, it's almost 100% a legal issue, because when you try to draw a map, there's no way to account for it. If your entire state is 33% African American, then it's 66% somewhere else, something else, right? So
Right.
if you have clusters of population, like for example, Lake Charles is 46% African American. Like but if you're drawing up a second majority minority district, it's not going to be Lake Charles. So it's almost 100% a legal issue, because from a map drawing standpoint, there's no way to sit down with your colored pencils and draw up this district here and this district there. It's going to have to be gerrymandered and manipulated. There's no way to do it organically.
Well, I think that's right. And, you know, sometimes I use the extreme example. If you were to take the 1/3 of our minority population and distribute them perfectly homogeneously around the state, which of course we know is not likely, but let's just, for the purposes of an example, you would not have any minority districts,
Right.
right? Because they're homogeneously, they would be 1/3 of every district. They were scattered homogeneously, and so they would not ever have an opportunity to elect a candidate of their choice. So back to the original point, it does matter where you live. And you have to have a minority population that lives of sufficient size in an area that's compact enough where you could draw a district. And we don't believe that exists at this point in time in Louisiana.
Yeah, and so you do your best now, and you hope it plays out in court later on, I guess. State Senator Sharon Hewitt is our guest. We're talking about the redistricting session. Got a couple minutes left with the senator, and I appreciate your time. I know this 20 days is a busy one, and it's only the precursor for what's to come when it comes to the regular legislative session, just another month and a half after that. Senator Hewitt, are we going to see any major changes, or is it looking like we're going to see any major changes when it comes to Senate districts, that which is coming out of y'all's side, heading to the other side of the building? What are we looking at on the Senate side within the state Senate?
Well, the map that we passed out of committee and is now on the Senate floor does make one major change in the Senate map, and that is it eliminates a Senate district in the Shreveport-Bossier area and migrates it to the North Shore area. And that's really strictly due to population. So we know, for example, if you were to draw a line kind of at the toe of the boot when you're looking at the state map, north of there, we have lost 110,000 people in terms of population. A Senate district is 119,000. So we, in effect, lost the population to support, as many Senate districts as we have right now. So to the tune of one district. And so we have drawn a map then that moves one of those Senate districts into the North Shore that has had tremendous growth and the fastest growth in the state. It will be centered in the Tangipahoa area and, of course, pick up parts of some of the surrounding parishes as well. Tangipahoa Parish is a fast-growing parish, and I think they deserve, a Senate based in that parish. So that's probably the most significant change in the Senate map compared to how it exists today.
So getting to the North Shore, that's your neck of the woods, but obviously the other side of St. Tammany Parish butting into Tangipahoa Parish. How does that? Will there be repercussions on the borders of your district as well?
Well, certainly. I mean, in my district, I had 9,000 too many voters compared to kind of the ideal number. Senator McMath, who has the western side of the parish, had 32,000 too many voters. Senator Mizell, just north of us, had 2,000 or 3,000 too much population, and so we all were experiencing tremendous growth. And so, by adding a district there, we were able to adjust our population a little bit less of the South Shore. I currently represent St. Bernard, Plaquemine, and Orleans, and I will give up some of.
She cut out. Oh, are you still there?
Senators.
There you go. Yeah, you cut out a little bit on the back end of that. So that's going to squeeze your square footage down, I guess, the overall area. But because of population shifts, there's no lack of representation within. Will we see repercussions on the other side coming out of New Orleans? Are they picking up representation on the Senate side?
Yes, they are on the New Orleans side. Again, everything is population driven. One of the unique challenges in New Orleans is we added 40,000 voters, 40,000 people in Orleans Parish, but 30,000 of them are white. And so when you're trying to maintain some majority-minority districts, that becomes a lot more difficult to do so. And so, we're working really hard. There's no, silver bullet or one easy answer. But we know that, again, the law requires us to have districts that are equal in population. In the Senate maps, they've defined that as plus or minus 5% of the perfect number. And so, some of the districts will have a little bit more, a little bit less, but they're all going to be kind of within the range of plus or minus 5%.
Well, we'll let you get back at it. We'll schedule you to come back on after the session's over with for sort of a recap, if you will. She is State Senator Sharon Hewitt from the Slidell area. We always appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Brian.
Absolutely.
Have a great day.
You do the same. You do the same. Interesting little tidbit on the back end. Oh, we're late for CBS News. Let's go. That's the first time I've ever heard Washington Parish and too much population in the same sentence. Right. Byron says, am I listening to a TED Talk? Galen says, yeah, love the TED Talk. Yeah, it kind of went that route. Surely this is more cerebral than the allegory of the cave. The allegory of the cave. I'm going to have to look that one up. You guys are way too invested in this debate.
Who said this?
Wait, who said... Troy says you two sound like Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg argument and the other guys about lions versus tuna.
It's a fair argument to make. I mean,
we will construct a
about?
series of breathing apparatus with kelp. I forgot about that movie.
What else better could we be discussing at 8 in the morning on a Monday?
Galen says Blazing Saddles could never survive the day. It won't be much longer that they will broadcast it. I know. Blazing Saddles would have to be directed by Quentin Tarantino. Excuse me while I whip this out. Not sure the correct crowd would be happy with an 80s like John Hughes film these days. Kind of rapey. I mean, don't put that in the universe. You're not taking my John Hughes movies away from me. Yeah, the geographic argument cannot be made, Galen. That's exactly right. That's where I took it, too, is like it's got to be a legal argument. You cannot geographically make this argument, especially when it comes to a congressional district. Like, we only have 6 of them. And, like, Lake Charles is 46% African-American, Lafayette's 30% African-American. But when you draw that district map, it gets outside of city limits. So your numbers get diluted very, very quickly. So if you want to not disenfranchise the minority, you have to disenfranchise the majority. And I don't care what courtroom you're in, that just doesn't make sense. We might see it play out that way, but it just doesn't make sense. It's infinitely frustrating. Wait, I don't understand. You say, I think we're kidding ourselves. The arguments she's espousing are weak. Hey, okay, but just so we're all on the same page, those are not her arguments. She's trying to walk you down the path of what the other side has to say. Just to be very clear. Senator Hewitt she said as much when I asked her about the geography versus the courtroom, or the geography versus the legal battle. When it comes down to the legal battle, you do not want to fight a horse-sized chicken. All good.
Do you want me to call or once we start the segment?
Yeah. Do I have any more live reads?
Yeah.
I still haven't done Muya.
Yeah, you didn't do Muya, and you did Department.
Yeah.
Muya, and then that's the only thing that's done.
Okay.
But if you had Go Slim or VRBG or VR Match or any of that,
Yeah.
I think for the sake of content, doesn't have to be every week or every day or whatever, we need to have equally stupid questions to talk about. Stuff like that.
Right at that 8 o'clock hour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way to spend just one break, just talking smack about stuff.
So
that
the hard
really-
part is leaving it on YouTube. It's got to be YouTube exclusive, and yeah.
I was definitely just teasing it.
No, 100%. I know.
It's a crucial argument, though. It's very important to my overall state of being day in and day out, you know? Really just, that's what sets the tone for my day. It's so important.
So at the end of the day now, I just want a chicken-sized horse. That would make a hell of a pet. I mean, if you could have, like, you know, a tiny pig or something. What are they called? Purse
Piglet?
pigs?
Oh, I don't know.
Something like that.
I just know Piglet is like the smaller version.
Well, they have they have miniature pigs, right? So if you can have that, you can have a chicken-sized horse, and that would be like a real animal.
A purse-sized horse?
Yes.
Like one that fits in a carry-on?
Yes. A purse
Bring one on
horse.
a
A
flight.
horse.
You know?
Yes. I mean, that's just that would, you know, put a little saddle on it, put your G.I. Joes on the back of it.
You don't have to pretend anymore. You just put it on a horse that's fit for your action figures.
Exactly. Like, why do you have... Like
There's a
my
market here that's
son would be.
untapped
I
right
know.
All
How
we
do
need
you?
is some genetic mutations.
How do you
and
create?
bam,
Yeah.
you monopolize the imagination of children.
Right.
There
Honey,
you
I
go.
Shrunk the
Money.
Horse.
Endless money, everywhere, just all over.
.837 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Going to talk with author Addison Armstrong about 2.5 minutes from right now. I do have to get you your forecast real quick as we are looking at clear sky. Well, I'm sorry, we have a 38% chance of rain today and clear skies for basically the rest of the week. Look for a warming trend as the week wears on during the daytime. Look for overnight lows to remain in the 30s. For example, today's high, 58. Tonight's overnight low, 32, right at freezing. Tomorrow's high, 62. Overnight low, 34. We'll get up to 66 on Wednesday, 68 on Thursday, 69 on Friday. And that's it's going to curb itself and turn back down a little bit for next weekend. But that's where we're at right now. As far as rain is concerned, yes, we do have a 38% chance of rain in the forecast for today. I'm not seeing hour by hour where that's going to come down. Or where that's going to play out. Looks like early afternoon, if anything. But not really a whole lot of shot of rain as we make our way through the day. Right now, we're at 47 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Going to get you to Addison Armstrong in 60 seconds. Let me tell you about the folks over at Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. If you're anything like me and you love a good cheeseburger for lunch, Mooyah is the spot. You know you're going to get fresh ingredients every day. You know you're going to get the fresh baked potato bun. If you want to go the potato bun route, you know, I don't talk about the lettuce wraps enough. They've got the low-cal. They've got the paleo. They can hook you up over at Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. If you're looking to reduce carbs, and quite honestly, during king cake season, you might want to counterbalance that a little bit, Mooyah's got you covered. They've got a low-cal burger. They've got a paleo burger. They can hook you up with something that's going to reduce the bun. Or go with the bun. Either way. Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. They've got 2 locations. Segan, just north of Industrialplex, and Bluebonnet at Highland Road. You're going to get the same great service, same great burger at both locations of Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. And oh, by the way, download the app. Start earning your rewards today. All right, time to welcome in Addison Armstrong. She is the author of The Light of Luna Park, and that's one of the points of conversation we're going to have right now. Addison, good morning. Welcome to Talk 107.3. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
No, glad to have you on here. Glad to be having this conversation because we're going to open up a number of different pathways. But let's start with The Light of Luna Park. Tell us all about it.
Of course. So it's a historical fiction novel published in August, and it's dual timeline. So the first timeline takes place in 1926, and it focuses on a nurse who actually steals a baby from the hospital to save its life. She takes it to the Coney Island baby incubators, which were real. And they were really the only option for premature babies at the time. And then the other timeline is 1950. It follows a young woman who is a teacher of special education, though that term is not, yet in existence. And her struggles with grieving her mother as well as her professional, struggles with her principal.
Now, this is technically fiction, but was stealing babies a thing? I mean, was this commonplace at the time?
So the incubator ward on Coney Island was true, which is funny. I've gotten reviews that said, this is just too unrealistic that there would be an incubator ward on Coney Island, and, that was the true part. It was not, I have no evidence that any nurses took babies against the parents' will. However, there were parents that did refuse to let their babies go to the incubator wards. They said it was a freak show. They said that it wasn't, the natural course of things. And so I pulled from that to think, what would a nurse do if that was the case? And that's sort of where it came from, as well as some articles about babies that got mixed up, they got sent home with the wrong person. It wasn't, the record keeping was not the same as it is today. So it was definitely possible.
One of my favorite things about historical fiction is a glimpse into our own American history that works, parallel to the book. I mean, the actual characters didn't exist, but the time and the overall social aspect, that which was going on alongside of it does. So I'm curious, as an author, what made you want to travel down this particular path and dive into Coney Island and in this time frame?
Yeah, that's a great question. I stumbled across an article about the Coney Island incubators, and I was just so fascinated at first by the juxtaposition of it. So, you have these freak shows and roller coasters and hot dogs and pretzels, and then you have this orderly, neat hospital ward that's saving thousands of babies' lives. So that was what drew me in at first. And then as I read more and more about it, I realized that Dr. Martin Cooney, who ran the incubator ward at Coney Island and also one in Atlantic City, was a fraud. He did not have a medical license. He claimed he did, but he did not. He had changed his name when he immigrated from Europe. His whole story was a lie. But he saved 6,500 babies' lives that would not have been saved otherwise. And so that really intrigued me. I thought, that's such a complicated, thorny ethical question of, you wouldn't want to entrust your baby to a con man, but he saved them. So that's sort of what drew me to it and where I got Althea, the nurse, from. So I thought, how can I have my character face the same, moral quandary? She wants to save a baby, but she has to lie and break the law to do it.
Oh, I love it. So many levels there. I mean, hero or fraud. That's
exactly.
It's not as cut and dry as that.
I have different readers that think different things. Yeah.
That's so cool. But it's alongside a time in history where these things happen, not these exact events, but similar in real life. So as an author of historical fiction, how much you based off of the entertainment of the book versus kind of learning about how America was at the time and place that you're basing your book on?
I try to keep as much of it accurate as I can. I base my plot around what's real. So before I even came up with my characters, before I came up with the plot, I read, several books about the incubators and everything. And I, try to tweak very little. There might be a date changed here or, that sort of little thing. But I love history and I love the research, partially because it procrastinates from the actual, writing, which is the hard part. So I try to really craft the book in a way that it is authentic and does match up with the history. But it can be hard because sometimes, no one needs to hear every single detail of exactly what dinner would have looked like in 1926,
No, but that all plays into it, though. I mean, the overall, because we think in terms of, my children were at Woman's Hospital and the level of security to get your own baby out, much less somebody else's. Like where we're at today versus where we were back then is literally a world apart, 100 years apart, a world apart. You mentioned you love history. What piques your interest about when it comes to what to write about? Is there a particular part of history that you like better than others? Or is it just digging back into the past that isn't completely documented on the internet?
I love the things that are kind of a surprise, like just how bizarre this was about the incubators. And then my next book, which comes out this August, The War Librarian, is about World War I librarians. So the American Library Association actually partnered up with the War Department, and they sent millions of books over to France for soldiers. And it was just, we hear about female nurses, we hear about things like that, but this was like a completely untold story. So I think that's what really attracts me to it. It doesn't matter necessarily when it was or where it was, but I like the stories that haven't been told.
Sending books over to the war. So would these war librarians have been in the war or they're back home?
So for the most part, they were back home and they would train YMCA volunteers and Red Cross volunteers. But towards the end of the war and through 1919, when there were still so many soldiers, in hospitals in France, they started to go over. So I have my character going over a little bit earlier, and she's there during the war.
Very cool stuff, and that won't be out till August, but you're hip deep in it. So walk us through the process real quick. I'm fascinated by it. Walk us through the process real quick. Research versus writing, time-wise. What consumes more?
That's hard to answer.
Okay.
I start with the research and then the writing, but there's so much research going on during the writing that it honestly might win out. Like, it might take more time overall. But what's really the long process is after the writing, just the editing, going back and forth with my agent and the editors. That takes a lot longer than any of the rest of it.
We got Addison Armstrong. She's the author of The Light of Luna Park, which is historical fiction. So, Addison, I don't want to drag you into a modern political argument based off of historical fiction, but we have seen some headlines recently that I kind of want to get your take on from an author's perspective. Whoopi Goldberg recently got herself suspended talking about the Holocaust. The discussion started with a book. Now, I think Mouse was the name of the book, and it's technically not fiction. That was nonfiction, but it was in graphic novel form. So I want to ask you this way. As an author, what are your takes on how we look at, critique, and expose future generations of just by storytelling through novels? How can you write today and expect how it's going to be interpreted 50 years from now?
Yeah, I don't know if you can predict, how it's going to be interpreted. I try really hard to be, authentic and sensitive in my writing, to not tell stories that aren't mine, but also not to ignore stories that aren't mine. Now there are sensitivity readers, publishing houses have them. You can hire them outside, which is really helpful. If you're not writing your own experience, there are people who have lived that and can read it and, give you critique, which I think, we've come such a long way in that way. In terms of, I'm also a teacher. I teach third grade. So like children's books and, all these debates about what books should be allowed in the classroom are very relevant to me. And it's just hard because there's so many incredible books being published today by authors of color, by, queer authors, by so many people who actually live the experiences they're writing about, that it seems difficult to justify ignoring those to focus on, older books that might have offensive, problematic elements. That being said, the War Librarian talks a lot about censorship and about how, the War Department tried to keep soldiers from reading communist books, pro-German books, even books about pacifism, and obviously how that's problematic. So I think sometimes books that can be offensive or books that are outdated can be brought into the classroom. And I know your question was not directly classroom, but that's
no, it 100% is because this was a book that was nixed from a school list.
Right. I think you need to expose students to things, and you can just have real, honest conversation. In my, college experience, people would talk about, reading To Kill a Mockingbird, by a white author, white savior narrative, but at the time was very progressive. And, it doesn't mean you can't read that at all anymore, but if you read it and read it alongside the hate you get, read it alongside a contemporary Black author's work, you can, analyze it and critique it and see what's changed and what still needs to change.
Interesting phrasing right there. And based off of when you read it, when you learned about it, to go from Atticus Finch being a good guy to being a quote-unquote white savior, one sounds a lot more sarcastic and over the top, and one sounds like an actual good guy. Like, the point in time where you read it affects what you take away from it as well. But at the end of the day, I don't know how you could stop storytelling and still keep a society.
Right. Yeah, and I think, stories do need to be told, and that's, again, back to the War Librarian. They start a book club in France in my book, and they have a discussion. They say, should we ban these books that are offensive or are, whatever the case is? Should the War Department be banning these books that are about pacifism? And they say, if we ban them, we can't learn from them. We have to, the reason that they're banning them is because they know how powerful words and stories can be.
We've got exactly 1 minute left with author Addison Armstrong. Before we get you out of here, War Librarian's not out till August, so Light of Luna Park is available now. As both an author and a third grade teacher, how age appropriate? What's my age range here to get reading Light of Luna Park?
Technically, it's an adult book. There have been high schools who have read it. I know there's a school who's reading it in ninth grade, so I'd say high school and young adult.
Okay, that was a selfish question. I was asking about my ninth graders specifically. So
there you go.
Awesome. Addison Armstrong, thank you so much for the time this morning, and keep telling stories. We're looking forward to the War Librarian later this year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cool stuff. And yeah, you got to keep telling stories. The idea of limiting that, where would we be when we stopped doing that? As a society, where would we be when we stopped doing that? Like she said, tell the story, but have the discussion alongside of it, right? If you're not doing that, then you're hindering our future. All right. We got a break. Coming right back. One segment to go. All right. That was awesome. That was fantastic. Let me know as soon as that's up, because not apologizing. No! That was the daddest of dad jokes.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh, bro. All right. So during this day in history, Jake had mentioned it's National Periodic Table Day. I got an email about the periodic tables. It says, "Hi, Brian. The periodic table is more than something students learn at school. It is a universal guide for scientists all over the world." They're asking me to do an interview on the periodic table.
You should. You never know. It might
No.
be. You might be in your element.
No, it's okay, so first of all, you can't leave me muted for my dad joke and then steal my dad joke after the fact. That's just wrong. And secondly, absolutely no.
Don't be hating that mine's better. It's okay.
It wasn't better. You stole it.
Was it?
You
though?
stole it.
Did
Yes. You stole it.
I've been thinking about that since 6 a.m. and I didn't know where to place it until just now.
Yeah. You stole it.
Debatable.
If it was yours and you wanted to run with it, you have the segment. You had the opportunity to do it during this day in history.
That's up to. That's up for interpretation.
No.
If I don't make the rules.
Do I hand things off to you for this day in history?
Do you?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes, I do.
I don't
I
know.
interrupt a lot.
Oh, you do.
But you're at the helm.
I am at the helm. I don't know. I think that's up for debate, personally.
I don't. That's not debatable. It's like asking if you'd like to fight a horse-sized chicken.
The answer is no, but if I had to pick one, then yes.
Chickens are ornery. They're always ornery. Horses can be docile. Even if you're fighting them, they don't know if they're fighting you.
Hey, just one kick to the huevos, you're good.
That's what I'm saying. You should look up Plato's allegory of the cave. You'll be incorporating it into your go-to analogies very soon afterwards. After you run out of sports-based ones. I don't run out of sports-based analogies. And by the way, if you missed Friday's show, Haggai's response to my you can't get the baseline of Maslow's hierarchy through virtual reality. Like, did he not lose it? That was awesome.
He was.
That was so
one.
good. He did not see that one coming.
He liked that one a lot.
I never get a chance to use it. But
You gotta find your audience.
You cannot eat and you cannot seek shelter in virtual reality. You can't virtually eat and actually feed your tummy.
See, all of this discussion and all these advancements is just making my theory come more and more true. I think in my lifetime, I will say this, I will keep saying this, it will be common in American households for people to have individual rooms designated for virtual reality.
100%.
That's happening.
If you have a theater room right now, yes.
Exactly. I've been predicting that since like 2015. Like,
Yes, and the thing is, it's virtual. You don't need a big room.
Exactly.
It could be like an old...
It could be
are we...
Yeah, we're good. We got 30 seconds.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't hear anything.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, it's like the dining room you never use.
Right.
Like, we
Right,
have
but within
rooms-
that room, you can have a bunch of cubes, and everybody has their own cube within the one room. So, yeah, take your formal dining and flip it into the virtual, because your cube and your wife's cube and your daughter's cube and your son's cube, they're all different cubes, but they don't take up a whole lot of space, because really, how much space do you need? It's virtual. It's like an old school arcade game. Remember when it first, like, Cruising USA or whatever the video games came? Oh, remember the Sit-Down Spy Hunter? Oh, so good.
Couldn't tell you.
Sit-Down Spy Hunter was a baller. 8:56, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. I was not ready for how into that last conversation I was going to be. Thanks again to Addison for hopping on board to talk about the light of Luna Park. If you missed it, it's available on demand at talk1073.com, or will be shortly. In fact, all the content right here will be available on demand at talk1073.com and also on YouTube. After the show is over, so the show is live on YouTube every day, right? Go there, subscribe. Let your friends know. Subscribe. Ask them to subscribe. We need subscriptions. I don't know. Anyway, after the show's over with, you can go back and watch the whole thing all over again, or any parts of it you like. Or if you heard something on the radio and like there was an in-studio guest and something happened during commercial, something happened off air, a pivotal question in our history was asked, whatever the case may be, and anybody who's already watching on YouTube knows how sarcastic I'm being about that last one.
No, you're dead serious.
No, I'm not.
No,
it's only for YouTube. We cannot get into the topic.
Follow us on YouTube.
It involves poultry. We cannot get into the topic. Anyway, when we go to break, a lot still happens behind the scenes, and a lot of it can be a lot of fun. So let your friends know. But stuff like what just happened in that last segment, I wasn't ready for the turn that was going to take. I mean, I have some prepared questions, but with any interview, I'm ready to go wherever the path leads me. I know where I can reset it to, but Addison was fantastic.
Killed it.
And I was ready for the light of Luna Park. I was not ready for the War Librarians, and I was not ready for the side note of Coney Island. Mm-hmm. Like, I knew it was set in Coney Island, but I wasn't thinking of terms of, like, modern-day Coney Island and the cyclone. Like just
taking real-world stuff and putting it in.
Right. Like 1926, you didn't see somebody on YouTube going, bing bong!
No, you did not.
We got to get out of here in a minute and a half, actually. Not enough time to open up another topic. We're going to have to dive back into COVID and mental health at a later point. We're supposed to be talking about that in this segment. We talked about it at the end of the 6 o'clock hour, which available on YouTube if you want to go back and check it out. We are starting to see the long-term repercussions, or the inklings of the long-term repercussions of how we've handled the COVID-19 pandemic. We have sacrificed a lot on the mental health side to protect us on the physical side, but how much have we actually saved? A recent report says deaths were reduced by 0.2% as a result of it. Now, you could look at those raw numbers and say you didn't do much, unless it's a loved one of yours who's in that number. One of the weird things we've seen about the pandemic from the start is statistics be damned. If it's my wife, my kid, my dad, my mom, I don't care about the overall numbers. I care about protecting who's close to me. We also talked about comorbidities in our Medical Monday segment. It is now Heart Month. Protecting ourselves there. You protect yourself in one avenue, it covers you in another, or helps you in another. But the way we've been handling the pandemic from the start does not contribute to that. Okay, forget about the mental health spot for now. We'll get back into it later on in the week. Think about this. Obesity, heart disease, hypertension, all these things are comorbidities that have been rampant amongst COVID deaths. What's the first thing we did when COVID happened? We shut down the gyms and left all the fast food drive-thrus open. Like 2 years later, can we not look back and say that just didn't make sense? We got to get out of here. Fox News Rundown's coming your way next. That'll be followed by Brian Kilmeade, then Dave Ramsey, then Jay Ducote taking you home this afternoon. Thank y'all for listening and have a great Monday. All right, I got to get my butt upstairs, y'all. We will see you tomorrow.